All righty.
All right, everybody. Hello, we are live. Thank you all for joining us on our YouTube channel, Royce in the House. And this is our music-based live podcast. We have multiple playlists. We've got 188 videos now. This will be 189 videos across several different types of playlists. This is our flagship, I call it, the music-based live podcast. So we're having a show tonight on the Grateful Dead. And once again, I want to thank everybody that's joined us. Whether you're watching live now or going to be watching in the future, all the videos are available at all time. But, I would ask that if you like what you see and you're enjoying it, please subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. And I've noticed that half my viewers are subscribers, excuse me, and half aren't. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe. Just go ahead, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We'll let you know when there's a show coming up in case you want to watch it. And yeah, we would really appreciate it. It helps the show to grow. So anyway, let me see who's in the chat here. We got AZ Mick. Hey, AZ, we've got Gloria. Okay, so let me say hi to a couple of people real quick, and then we're going to get right into the show. Okay, and say hi to Gloria real quick. Glori, Gloria. Hi, Gloria. Good to see you
And
here.
about 5'4".
So anyway, we're going to talk about the Grateful Dead. Okay, I mean, I listened to the Grateful Dead quite a bit when I first moved to Long Beach, California in 1971. They played like my brother was getting ready to play.
No, I was going to.
Let me introduce my
Gloria.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on here?
This is my younger brother, Richie Eddings. He has his own live podcast, The Jesus Movement, and he does a great job. Everybody's learning with him. He's not trying to play the expert, in the area, but he's learned a lot. He's teaching a lot, and everybody's learning together with him. He's a great musician. Played in bands all over Las Vegas where we grew up, and some very popular bands. He was even invited to play with Wayne Newton's band, but him and his wife had such a good band, they declined. Anyway, so Richie's got a great show. He plays music all the way through it. He's a lot of fun. He's a very funny guy. So anyway, just had to get that out. Hi, Angela. How you doing, Angela? Good to see you here. We're getting ready to take off on the Grateful Dead, okay? And so the Grateful Dead was founded in the San Francisco area in the mid-'60s during the rise of the counterculture. And I could talk all night about the counterculture. It was a period of time when all of us grew our hair long. We were really frowned upon. It was hard to get a job like that. I can remember tucking my long hair up into a short-haired wig and getting a job stocking the shelves at Albertson's grocery store. My friends would walk in and finally recognize who I was and start laughing at me. But I mean, it was hard to get a job when you had long hair back in those days. It was kind of new for the guys to be growing their hair long. And it was also associated with getting high and things like that. So anyway, that was all part of the counterculture. The government, which we refer to as the establishment, they hated us long-haired leaping gnomes. And of course, we hated them back, probably even more so. But anyway, so that's that whole counterculture thing and all the crazy stuff that was taking place. But okay, so the band was formed in the mid-'60s during the counterculture period of time where we had the Summer of Love in San Francisco, and Haight-Ashbury, and all those bands played at the Golden Gate Park. But it was founded by, of course, Jerry Garcia, lead guitar and vocalist, Bob Weir, rhythm guitar, vocals, Ron Pigpen McKernan,
Okay, come on.
Keyboard, harmonica, and vocals, and a great blues harmonica player. And Phil Lesh, bass, vocals, and Bill Kreutzmann, drums. So that was the original lineup, and they did add a couple of people later, but it had its roots in a what they called a jug band. I haven't heard that term too many times. A jug band by the name of Mother McCree's Uptown Jug Champions, which was formed in Palo Alto, kind of the Silicon Valley now, in 1964 by a local bluegrass guitar banjo hotshot, Jerry Garcia, none other than Jerry Garcia. The jug band lineup included a young guitar and vocalist named Bob Weir, a powerhouse blues singer named Ron McKernan, whom Garcia christened Pigpen, After playing some coffee house gigs in and around the Palo Alto area, the band decided to play electric blues and rock, evolving into a group called the Warlocks. So they became the Warlocks before they were ever the Grateful Dead. Within months, the formation of the Warlocks, the group changed their name to the Grateful Dead and developed their improvisational psychedelic roots music while performing as the house band for Ken Kelsey's Acid Test. So anyway, so that's quite the history there, and they're called one of the greatest, maybe the greatest jam band of all time. They didn't just do a 3-minute or a 4-minute or a 5-minute song, which was popular back then. In fact, the shorter songs were what the labels were all looking for. They didn't want 7, 8, 9, 10-minute songs. They were called a jam band because they take off playing a song. That song might last 10, 12, 15 minutes. They just kept jamming, and that's what they were really known for. And okay, so their psychedelic roots, performing as a house band for Ken Casey's Acid Test. They made a name for themselves playing dance concerts and benefits at Bill Graham's Fillmore in San Francisco. Let's see. And at the Golden Gate Park and other venues with San Francisco groups like, well, if you don't know this, I was in Haight-Ashbury not too long ago and made a short travel blog, but Haight-Ashbury was the epicenter of the Summer of Love and the hippie movement and the counterculture. In 1967, an estimated 100,000 people from across the country and even out of the country, Europe, converged on San Francisco, mostly in the Haight-Ashbury area. I was a little young, I was 16, 17 maybe, probably too young to haul up to San Francisco and check it all out, but they showed it almost nightly on TV. It was a crazy scene. Everybody wore bell bottoms, real long hair. Everybody was getting high. It was just wild. It was just a crazy time in our lives. So anyway, they played it just down the street from Haight-Ashbury, that district I just was describing, was the Golden Gate Park. And the Golden Gate Park started having these free concerts. The Grateful Dead played at them, Janis Joplin, Big Brother and the Holding Company, Quicksilver Messenger Service, Santana. There was so many bands. It was such a popular area up there with kind of this whole hippie, long-haired movement. And the drugs, of course. There was a lot of LSD being taken. In fact, LSD was just banned in 1960. So anyway, this is what was going on in that San Francisco area. And so they were playing, in the Golden Gate Park and things like that, and at these local clubs around the Bay Area. They used that as a springboard. They began to amass a considerable following from doing that around the San Francisco, playing a blend of pop rock, deep blues, and forging a uniquely improvisational style that would become their calling card. And it's still their calling card.
Words and lyrics for a touch of gray. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm not talking.
Okay.
I was looking something up.
Okay. Hey, I just wanted to say to all our friends in the chat right now, if anybody wants to come on the show and talk about the Grateful Dead and share anything you know about them, I'm going to put up a link right now. And you just click on that link. You'll come backstage. You'll check your microphone, and then I can bring you on. Okay, so the link just went up. If anybody wants to come on the show and join us on as co-hosting, just want to sit on the show and watch, I don't care. Just hit the link and come on. Please do. Okay, so the early okay, let's see. That was their calling card, the improv. The early approach was heard in full force on the first self-titled album, Grateful Dead album, released in 1967, which was the actual Summer of Love. Though the album made little notable impact outside of San Francisco, the band toured relentlessly throughout '67, including an appearance at the Monterey Pop Festival along the way. They picked up a second drummer, Mickey Hart, and an avant-garde keyboardist, Tom Constanten, joined in late '68. So the band started to grow in size, get a little more diversified. So anyway, the Grateful Dead were one of the leaders in San Francisco's music scene throughout the '60s. So it came as no surprise to anyone when when the young band was tapped to be a part of what they were calling. It was a huge event in the Bay Area. It was called Gathering of the Tribe and the Human Being. Okay, it was just a celebration, basically, of our times and our movement. And interestingly enough, members of the band, as well as San Francisco area residents and pranksters alike, had just completed an exciting year of growth in 1966 that saw the actual Summer of Love, along with the criminalization of LSD in late '68. But that didn't stop the attendees from enjoying that weekend. It was just a great time, and everybody, the Golden Gate Park concerts were known for everybody being stoned out of their minds, and for the most part, it was psychedelics. My next door neighbor, he doesn't live here anymore, but he lived next door to me for 10 years. Pete, he was a San Francisco police officer, and so he was 9 years older than me. So he was in his early 20s, during the Summer of Love, and they used to send him down to the Golden Gate Park to these concerts as an undercover agent, trying to bust people. And the crazy thing is, Pete smoked weed like a forest fire. And he was ex San Francisco cop who got hurt and retired early. But he'd go to these concerts and take drugs with people to try to get to know them and get to know their contacts and things. And I remember he said to me one day, because everybody was so stoned there, he goes, "Royce, if you couldn't get laid at one of those concerts, there was something wrong with you." So as you've heard, if you weren't there, it was all free love, drugs, getting high, listening to music, and just.
But you had to be very careful.
Oh yeah.
Sorry about that. You had to be very careful if you got laid.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. Okay. So anyway, the counterculture generation was gaining its presence in American society at that time, for better or for worse. Some people liked it. A whole lot of people didn't like it. It was just too new and too crazy. Okay, so day 2 of the weekend event included appearances from notable guest speakers, including Timothy Leary, the biggest advocate for LSD ever, who used to be a college professor.
Oh my gosh.
Was fired and wound up having to leave the country to keep from going to prison. Was actually a guest of some of the exiled Black Panthers, and I think Algiers for several years. That's another whole story there. But anyway, so Timothy Leary came and spoke. Allen Ginsberg, a leader of the counterculture, came and spoke. And it was really kind of a whole anti-establishment period of time. In fact, the reason President Richard Nixon, classified pot, marijuana, the same classification as heroin, which seems completely insane, was because he knew the Allen Ginsbergs and all these other leaders of the counterculture, even a lot of the musicians that were considered leaders of they all smoked pot. So the Nixon administration rationalized, well, we can make the penalties for smoking pot really severe, just like heroin. We can bust all these guys and lock them all up, and we'll be done with this mess. And so anyway, to this very day, it's still classified the same as heroin as far as a criminal offense.
Well,
even though it's legal.
I got something to say about the Grateful Dead.
Okay, go ahead.
Back in the late '80s, early '90s, they came out with a song. I'm not so sure what year it was, but it was called "Touch of Grey."
Yeah, that was their number one song.
I will survive. I will get by. I sang that song in Richie and the Crocodiles band.
Oh, did you?
And I'm looking at the words online here. I barely had any of those words right. I picked it off of like a CD, and we wrote down with the rest of the 2 other guys that was in the band. We wrote them down, and we were wrong on about 60% of the words.
Oh wow!
It was real hard.
You want to sing it now?
I couldn't sing it now if I tried. I really couldn't. I was sitting there looking at it, trying to remember it, and I would really blow it if I even tried. I might be able to go, "I will get by." but that's about it. But anyway, I sang it for, a few years, and I didn't even know I had the words so wrong.
That's
really
funny.
weird, huh? I know.
It really, you know what? It really isn't so weird. I still have the words wrong on a lot of songs.
Oh, well, just like Joe Cocker, I picked a song. He had a song had one chord in it. It was an E. It was an E7 chord through the whole song. It was called "High Time We Went."
Yeah, that's like America's Horse with No Name. Two chords in the whole thing.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I think so. That's how I played it anyway.
Well, anyway, Joe Cocker's was one chord. It was called "High Time We Went," and they just jammed, and there was a couple of verses back into "High Time We Went."
Right?
Crazy stuff. One chord. I was sitting there trying to learn the song.
We've been joined by several new people. I just want to give a little shout out here real quick, Rich. Okay. I didn't mean to interrupt you. But we've been joined by Laurel Rossman. We've been joined by my buddy Zepp Pearl. And I was on a show with Zepp Pearl, Patrick, the Vinyl Archivist, just the other night. And Patrick's got a great show, plays a lot of great music all the way through. Laurel Rossman's joined us. Angela's joined us. Hi, Angela. Good to see you again. DJH Record Hound. And him and Zepp Pearl both have great shows. You guys need to go to Zepp Pearl's channel and to DJH Record Hound's channel and give them a listen and subscribe to them. You will enjoy it, believe me. And anyhow, so anybody wants to join us, I've been putting links up periodically. Go ahead and hit the link. You'll come backstage and I'll bring you on the show. All righty then. So let's get back to our Grateful Dead and our Summer of Love and the crazy counterculture that I was kind of a part of, a little bit late, but kind of a part of. Very, very fresh in my mind for sure. Okay, so day 2 of that weekend, the Be-In or whatever it was called, the Human Be-In, the gathering of the Human Be-In. Day 2 of that weekend event included appearances from notable great speakers, Timothy Leary, Allen Ginsberg, as I mentioned. The day's events also featured performances from the Jefferson Airplane, Quicksilver Messenger Service, Country Joe and the Phish, the Charlatans, just to name a few. Hippies and early Deadheads in attendance were treated to a 3-song performance by the Dead, including Morning Dew, Viola Lee Blues, and Good Morning Little Schoolgirl. All 3 covers would appear on the band's self-titled debut album when it arrived later that year, March 17th. Okay, so the Grateful Dead were just getting going. They didn't really have a lot. They were popular locally for all the appearances at Golden Gate Park and at venues like this. A young Jerry Garcia belted out the solemn lyrics of Morning Dew during a 9-minute performance. And that's what I mean about a jam band, a 9-minute performance. I mean, it's like, Inagata Devita by Iron Butterfly, right? I think there's much longer, but anyway, so became one of their trademark ballads throughout their 30-year career, a super heady version of Viola Lee Blues, followed with Garcia spending the majority of the performance riffing away on the guitar, along with collaborative jam amongst all the members. The band turned back to the blues, featuring Ron "Pigpen" McKernan, so named by Jerry Garcia, affectionately named by Jerry Garcia.
Affectionately named, that's nice.
Pigpen was blowing away on the harmonica throughout their closing number of Good Morning Little Schoolgirl. The entire performance was somehow taped, even in those early days of the Dead. That performance is actually available online. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. So moving right along, Rich. So I cut you off a little bit ago. I'm sorry about that.
Well, that's okay, but I've got something here. I don't know if you said it or not yet.
Okay, go ahead.
It says the surviving members of this stalwart classic rock band, Mickey Hart, Phil Lesh, Bill Kreutzmann, and Bob Weir have booked their final concerts together at Chicago's Soldier Field on July 3rd, 4th, and 5th. The show, billed as Fare Thee Well, celebrating 50 years of Grateful Dead, comes in celebration of their half-century as a band.
Yeah, and that's 2023 we're talking about right there.
Right, that's coming up.
Yeah, because they after Jerry died, of a heart attack, he was actually in a rehab center when he had the heart attack. But I've got some notes on that. Let's see. I don't have it all memorized, but
Well, every time I used to grow a beard and gain some weight, people would call me Jerry Garcia. I didn't think it was very funny.
He died in 1995, August 9th, 1995, of a heart attack in a residential drug treatment facility in Forest Knolls, California. And of course, after that, the band broke up. But then they came back together. The remaining members reunited for a number of concert tours, one-off performances, and things like that. So, and now they're going to do some shows here in 2023. If they were doing one locally, I'd have to go see it, just because they're such an iconic band. I'd have to go see it. I mean, anyway, they're not, so I won't go see it. But so when it comes to Grateful Dead albums, their self-titled first album, 1967, caused hardly a ripple beyond the San Francisco area. Like I said, they were really a localized band for the first several years. The second Grateful Dead album, Anthem of the Sun, was released in '68. It took the band's improvisational and experimental tendencies to greater extremes. They experimented a lot, but they did it all well. Okay. The following grew by leaps and bounds. By 1969, the Dead were popular features on the American touring circuit, and they released their third album, if I can say this properly, Aoxomoxoa. I'm sure I completely butchered that. Anyway, the songs were cut down in length from those heard on the Anthem of the Sun, but the psychedelic experimentation was still in full force. I don't think that ever left. By now, the Dead had begun to amass a fanatical following, later known as Deadheads. And I have met many Deadheads in my life. And usually when you met them, they weren't wearing shoes. Their feet was dirty. Their hair didn't look like it'd been combed or brushed for a couple of months, but whatever. They were all good people. By now, the Dead had begun, and their popularity made them naturals for the Woodstock lineup. Now, the Woodstock story gets to be pretty crazy. One of my favorite stories about the Grateful Dead in Woodstock. Well, the Grateful Dead's opening band, when they were doing their things around San Francisco and touring, were Santana. And Santana didn't even have a single album out, but the Grateful Dead were able to get them a spot, in the Woodstock lineup. So when Jerry Garcia and the Grateful Dead were at the airport in San Francisco, they weren't on the same plane, but in the airport, he saw, Carlos Santana. He goes, "Hey, Santana, what are you doing? Come on over here." And so Santana went over to Jerry Garcia, and Garcia says, "Hey, do you and the guys want some acid?" Jerry Garcia always had acid. That was just a staple for those guys. And Santana goes, No, Jerry, we don't know when we're going to go on. I don't want to, get called up and we're on acid. And Garcia goes, "No, you don't have anything to worry about. We're not going to go on for another 9 or 10 hours, and you're on after us." And Santana goes, "Oh, okay." So Garcia gave Carlos Santana enough acid for the whole band. Okay. And so they get to the concert, and they're in a room, and him and the band are, it's been like an hour since they dropped this acid stuff, and they're just completely frying, just hallucinating out of their minds. And the door opens, and the guy goes, "Santana, you're on," in that condition. And Santana,
"Oh no!"
They go, "Well, with all the traffic snarled and people abandoned miles worth of cars on the way to the venue, they just couldn't get anywhere. They just parked the car in the middle of the road by the hundreds, if not thousands, and walked to the venue. And people just were having a hard time getting in. So all of a sudden, Santana got called up. And I tell you what, I became a huge Santana fan after seeing the movie Woodstock. And that Soul Sacrifice.
That happened to him at Woodstock?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
I know. But what an amazing performance of Soul Sacrifice. I mean,
you would never have known, man.
Hey, we got Jeff Davidson here. Hey, Jeff, I put a link up several times scroll up in the chat. You want to come and join us, hit the link and come say hi. Come in, hang out, maybe tell us a couple of counterculture stories, buddy. That would be great. So anyway, so let's see, where were we? Woodstock. We're getting to Woodstock. Okay. As a premier live band.
I watched Woodstock Story several times about how all the setup went and all that stuff. And they went through so much to get that set up and everything, and the problems they had and all the stuff. And it was just a bunch of young dudes and stuff.
Yeah, I just heard a week or two ago, one of those very young dudes you're talking about that you'll see in the movie all over the place just died like a couple of weeks ago.
Wow, too bad.
Yeah, it makes you kind of.
Well, they're not young dudes anymore.
No, that's right. You know, like most bands, the Grateful Dead had some bad nights. They were a great band, but things didn't always go well. So one of the really bad nights they had was their performance at Woodstock. Okay, now the band members changed. They added a couple of new people. It looks like. I mean, Jerry Garcia, of course, Bob Weir, Ron Pigpen, McKernan. But they added Tom Constanten on keyboard and vocals, Phil Lesh that you mentioned earlier, Rich on bass, Bill Kreutzmann on drums, and Mickey Hart also on drums. So they added a few people, and their set list was Saint Stephen, Mama Tried. That's a great old country tune. Dark Star, High Time, and Turn On Your Love Lights. Okay. So the real story here is the Grateful Dead would have been killed that night if they had been playing in England where it was much moisture. And this is being told by Bob Weir, the guitarist. And okay, so this rock festival, Woodstock Festival, Music and Arts, went down in history. But according to Grateful Dead member Bob Weir, it nearly went down the pooper, to quote him. Not a word I typically use, but to quote him, okay. The event was plagued by all manner of technical difficulties due in part to a series of summer storms. Okay, speaking to Alan Paul back in 2015, Grateful Dead guitarist and singer Bob Weir recalled the band's 5-song set at Woodstock 69, recounting how the band nearly got killed in the process. The band performed on the Saturday following the performances of the likes of Santana, the Incredible String Band, and Canned Heat. By day 2, Woodstock was already nothing more than mud turf. Okay, and so what happened was the facilities were real bad, and they had a kind of a stage manager that took care of the sound system and everything like that, and but things were really bad there. There was the sanitation facilities weren't adequate. The first aid wasn't adequate. A couple of people died there. Many other people got really, really sick there. But before the Dead took to the Woodstock stage, their sound engineer, the legendary LSD chemist.
Oh my gosh.
the sound engineer, a legendary LSD chemist. I mean, can you even fathom that? By the name of Osley Bear Stanley had considered the Hanley PA system, which the Woodstock people had set up, to be woefully inadequate for the band. In the course of making several alterations to the setup, he also removed the grounding from the electrical supply. Now, this is where they really got in trouble. So the PA that greeted the Dead when they were finally took the stage was not only riddled with issues, but potentially dangerous as well. The band members also ingested a fairly amount of LSD, of course. I mean, this is just like craziness, man.
You know, they should have left LSD out of the plan and it might have been all right, you know?
Right. Before going on and seemed quite lost on stage, a situation not helped by the magnitude of all the tripping freaks surrounding them on both sides of the stage, okay? Introduced by their friend Ken Babbs, one of Ken Kesey's original merry pranksters, the group of acid-fueled crazies were emerged out of San Francisco in the mid-'60s, and the band took off with Saint Stephen. a song from their new album, Aoxomoxoa. I know I butchered it. I'm sure I butchered it. A major shock to rhythm guitarist Bob Weir, the result of touching his ungrounded microphone and guitar at the same time, blew the power out momentarily, ensuring that the second verse of the song was was not captured by the film. Perhaps it was the shock that forced the band to abandon the song halfway through, ducking into a cover of Merle Haggard's Mama Tried instead.
Calm it down a little bit.
But
calm it down a little bit. Might not be as much electricity going in there.
Hey, Breakfast Kings, how you doing, buddy? You're welcome to join us. I've been putting links up. Anybody wants to click on it and jump on, you're welcome to it. Okay, now according to Weir, it was very difficult to give the already miffed crowd a good show because the band members were being electrocuted throughout the performance. Our soundman decided that the PA system was woefully inadequate, and he was going to set up our PA, he began. He got the ground plane wrong, real wrong. So anytime Garcia, Phil, or I touched our strings, we got 30 to 35 volts of electricity. Every time they touched the freaking strings, man, enough to really irritate you, and all hell broke loose. If you had the temerity to go anywhere near your microphone while touching your strings, okay? And so that's what happened to Bob Weir. He touched his microphone and his strings. And I think that's in the story here. Okay, so yeah, Bob Weir says, I did so, and a blue line about 1.5 inches thick flew out, hit me in the mouth, lifted me off my feet, and sent me 8 or 10 feet through the air, just from touching the strings and the mic at the same time, if you can imagine that. And when the birdies went away, he was kind of knocked out. When the birdies went away, I had a fat lip. If this had been in England with their higher voltage, I would have been history.
Wow.
That's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, aren't they? Well, I don't know if this makes a difference, but aren't they on 220 there?
I think they are. Yeah, we went to.
I heard something about that a while back.
Yeah, we went to London about 3 years ago. Well, London, Amsterdam, and Italy. Yes. Anyway.
That's when they did the video.
Yeah, that's right.
They did the video right after that of Touch of Grey when they were all skeletons. That was after the shock.
That's right. But I had to buy all these electrical adapters, different ones for different countries, plug them in and then plug into them, So as you would expect, these constant electrocutions weren't conducive to a good live show. Pretty good dead show. No pun intended. As a result of the whole fiasco, the Grateful Dead had written off the history of Woodstock. Weir added, we played so poorly that we wouldn't allow the footage to be used in the movie or the soundtrack. You try playing with the constant 35-volt shock every time you touch a string. Weir isn't the only rocker. Bob Weir isn't the only rocker with an unpopular opinion about Woodstock. Talking to Howard Stern in 2014, Neil Young said, Woodstock was a bullshit gig, a piece of shit. We played fucking awful, he added. No one was into the music. I think Stephen Stills was way overboard into the huge crowd. Everybody was on this Hollywood trip with the fucking cameras. They weren't playing to the audience as much as to the cameras. And I thought that was bullshit. All these assholes filming everybody. Everybody's carried away with how this is Neil Young, with how cool they are. I wasn't moved.
Well, I got to tell you something. I'm going to interject something here. You don't have to be at Woodstock to get electrocuted like that. I almost got electrocuted at the Moose Lodge in Henderson playing a gig.
Oh, what was that?
Yeah, it was the wiring was about 100 years old. The amps were all buzzing with it because we didn't have ground.
Oh my God!
Like 4 amps buzzing. You couldn't get too close to the mic, or sparks were shooting out to your lip. And you don't have to be at a big concert like that.
You don't have to be in a big concert.
Little teeny Moose Lodge in Henderson. We almost all got electrocuted.
That's really crazy. And I've heard other
people about it. That's funny. It's real funny if you think about it.
No, I've heard other people say the same thing. Hey, we just got joined by another podcast celebrity, Eddie's Physical Media Talk. I would encourage Richie. You need to go. You need to go check these guys out. You need to go check out Eddie and
this is the first I heard of Eddie.
Yeah, no, Eddie's great. He and Breakfast Kings of Loyola. Go check their shows out. You go in the chat, and get to know some more people. It's good for you too, but it's a fun time. Eddie plays just great music, and to tell you the truth, it's a lot of stuff that you don't hear every day. You don't turn your radio on and hear the stuff he's playing, but it's really cool rock and roll.
Okay.
Yeah, so you really enjoy it. Yeah.
That sounds
so
really
anyway,
good.
we got Breakfast King of Loyola here too. It's good to see both.
Eddie and Breakfast King. All right.
Breakfast King of Loyola, correct? Yeah. So anyway, hey Rich, tell us another electrocution story. We want to.
Well, let me see. Okay, this is not that big of a. This is not that funny, but it happened at home at our house. You remember? Yeah, you remember that a long time ago before we had our color TV, the console with the 8-track and the record player.
Yeah.
Before that, we had that big, heavy black and white one.
Yeah.
On 4 legs. You remember that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I don't know how long our dad knew, but we had a faulty plug in the back on the TV cord. It was one of them, plastic plugs, and probably just barely hanging by a thread on one side.
I think we all got shocked at that plug.
Okay,
yeah.
One day nobody was in the den with me, and it was unplugged, so I went to plug it in, right, and it knocked me halfway across the den on my ass.
You know what? The same.
And I got a bloody nose.
Really? Well, you know what's really funny? You should bring up some of our old televisions. When we lived in Victory Village, appropriately named because they were ex-army barracks, and it was Victory Village for victory in World War II. That's how old they were.
Right.
And there was the low-income housing in town. That's where we were growing up. Anyway,
it was all low-income housing in those days.
I know.
It was over $75 a month.
I know, but we got I remember getting our very first TV. It was a 13-inch, metal TV, and it was half red and half white.
Right.
And they said Dad finally, because it always was real snowy and got one channel all snowy. It just really sucked. He finally went out and bought this huge antenna and put it in the front yard. But you had to turn it. You had,
in the front yard?
Yeah, at Victory Village, right in front of our place.
Oh, in Victory Village. Okay, all right.
Yeah. No.
That makes sense now. Yeah.
Not when we finally moved to the suburbs, right? But but so he'd go out there in his underwear at night and turn that pole. It was about 14
Oh my
feet
gosh.
to try to get and we'd say, yeah, stop, no, go back a little ways. He'd keep twisting and turning it. And we finally got rid of most of the snow.
I remember we pushed that TV around on that metal stand with wheels.
Right.
You don't see that stuff no more. That's retro, man. That's way
retro.
No,
it is, yeah. Didn't your son wanted, little Rich, he wanted that big console we had for like 25 years.
I know, he's got some retro stuff.
That was a great color TV, but then it had like a radio on one side and it
had a radio, it had an 8-track tape player and a record player.
Right.
That's what I used to listen to all his albums on.
Well, and it worked really good. The color TV was like just
it was good. Then it started having problems.
Yeah.
After the first problem, it kept on having problems.
Just got joined by our buddy Star Trekker. How you doing, Star Trekker? Good to see you here, buddy. Thanks for joining us. I'll do another little plug here real quick. A lot of not everybody comes in the chat. A lot of people are watching. They don't come in the chat. Maybe they don't feel like they don't know anybody or just happier just to watch without being in the chat. But when I look at my analytics, I find out that almost 50% of the people that view all these shows aren't subscribers. And I just want to put a little plug in because it doesn't cost a dime to subscribe, but it really helps the show grow. You're kind of being judged on your subscribers and your watch hours, and it takes both of them to grow the show. So if you guys that are watching or going to be watching in the future, because all 188 videos are available at all times. If you like what you're seeing, go ahead and subscribe. Like I said, it doesn't cost anything. And it just helps the show grow. and it helps us keep going, gives us a little inspiration.
Can I say something here?
If you like, you can hit the notification bell. You get a little one-time notice before the show comes on,
Right.
so you don't miss it if you're enjoying them.
I'd like to say something here too.
Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
Everything Royce just said, I agree with about subscribing, and it's easy and it is free, and there's no obligations or nothing. Also, I just did a commercial. If you look me up, I'm under Richie Eddings. You can see my name right here. You know, there's the spelling and everything. And I have another title, The Jesus Movement, but it's under Richie Eddings. And I'm just trying to build the show now more than I ever have. I'm trying to market it better and everything. And I just put a commercial up on YouTube. It's about 2 minutes long. And I talk about Royce, and I talk about Rachel from Rachel's Ghost, who is going to be on Monday night. And I already put you in the commercial, Royce, so I hope you make it. Okay. I'm not putting you on the spot, but you're in the commercial.
I haven't seen that yet.
Okay. So anyway, I did a commercial, and I just want you to look me up. And I don't care if you believe in Jesus or if you don't believe in Jesus or if you're an atheist, whatever, come on the show. I want to hear your views about why these things are like this. I just invite you all to come on and discuss it. We'll have fun. No, we're not going to get in fights or nothing like that, you know. So we'll just have fun, and please watch us both, subscribe, and I'm sure you'll enjoy and have fun.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Rich. Hey, Gloria, thank you. Gloria just says, hit the like button, everybody, too. Thank you. Yeah, no, that's really important. There's a thing called the YouTube algorithm. I'm not sure I understand it completely, but it's just like eye in the sky that's watching all of us, you know, podcasters or people with YouTube channels. And if you're getting a lot of likes, when people start, you know, people do searches on YouTube. They're interested in something, they'll type it in, and they get 100 things to choose from, maybe, or maybe 3 things to choose from. But if you're getting a lot of likes and your show is similar to the topic they're looking for, you get presented to them as one of the options for them to see, and that really helps to grow the show too. So the hitting that thumbs up button is important. That's the like button, and it also helps to grow the show, and that's really appreciated. Okay, Jeff Davis said, oh, I came back since Caitlin missed me. Jeff, we're glad you came back, buddy. Thank you. So anyway, Grateful Dead. Any more comments, Rich?
Well, like I said, I don't know what I missed about the Grateful Dead. I sang a song, Touch of Grey, years ago, and I just remember doing it. In fact, it was a suggestion of another band member at the time that I do it because my voice more fit the song, and it was real popular at the time. So
okay,
we did it, you know, almost just like the record for 3 guys, you know, and it was a gas and it was fun and everybody liked it. And I remember the concerts. The local concerts they had at the stadium when Grateful Dead came, the last concert they came, I remember all the tie-dye shirts and people getting ready to go. And there was a lot of excitement brewing, you know, in town. And, you know, they're ready to party, man. That's why they were going.
Right.
And I never really knew much about them, but I'm sure it was a good time, you know.
Well, Rich is 3 years younger than me. He remembers I moved to Long Beach in 1971. We'd been making a lot of trips down there. A buddy of mine named Miles was getting in so much trouble he had to move in with
good old Miles.
Leave Las Vegas and move in with his sister in Long Beach. So we'd always it'd usually be about 2 o'clock in the morning. We'd be sitting at a party and someone would go, "We ought to go see Miles," and we'd all perk up and go jump in our cars and take off for California. And each one of those trips was a total adventure, wrecking cars.
Is it Miles? He had the record. He had the record to be able to do the most drugs at one time of anybody.
I don't really know, but he died from drugs at 60 years old.
That was a bad joke. I'm sorry.
I know.
Yeah,
I know that probably.
It was a bad joke. He did so much of it.
Not everybody realized it was supposed to just be youthful experimentation, not a lifestyle. You know?
Yeah, I know, but you know what? A couple of guys that I knew, unfortunately, it just changed their whole speech and everything.
Oh, I know. It changed their whole speech. They sound, yeah, exactly.
It just sounded like they were always on downers or something.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're saying.
No matter what they did. I knew one guy who went to a pill party and they were doing these. He told me about it, and he still had his intelligence and stuff, but he had lost his ability to speak properly, and so he sounded really weird. Like, but anyway, he told me what he did. He did a pill cocktail.
Oh God!
Where you just take a handful of whatever's in there, and you do them all.
No, that's insane.
And he never could talk right after that.
Oh, I can believe that.
I know. I can believe that. Yeah, for sure.
Probably never do anything right after that. But I mean, this was a different time and place. And, you know, the funny thing is you get away from all that stuff. You think everybody got away from it. And you find out at some point it's worse than it ever was, you know?
Well, you gotta, seems like you gotta get smart sooner or later, you know? You can't take it real far. Like, I still know people that are in their 60s still doing, you know, some hardcore meth and
oh, that's right,
and heroin and all kinds of stuff.
I know.
It's just like, how in the world are you able to?
A couple of my old friends that I really hadn't seen in like 45 years or more,
right?
Died, you know, over the last 7 or 8 years from drug use.
It's like what if you don't have it?
I don't know.
And your body's so used to it, and you can't get it. All of a sudden,
I guess that's what withdrawals are all about, you know.
Yeah, it sure is, man.
I have a little video called Tie-Dyed. It's about all the deadheads who follow them around. For some, it's like their job. You know, Angela, that's absolutely right. I have met some. They sell food or merchandise, kind of make a living out of it. Yeah, that's right. Just anything just to follow the Grateful Dead. That's exactly right.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know. I really wanted to go see him on one of their weekend concerts at Sam Boyd Stadium in Vegas. But I have some friends were going and they're all excited and stuff. But I don't know why I couldn't get myself to go. You know. Yeah.
I wished I would have seen him. Hey, Michael Nolan.
Everybody, I got all worried about it.
How you doing, Michael? Hey, everybody's got to go check Michael out. Let me tell you something. This guy, the bottom line, I'm telling you, he's got an amazing show, and really a smart show. People love it. And the time that I've known Michael, he went from something like 155 subscribers to what is it now, 24,000 subscribers in the span of a year or less. I've never seen growth, but he's just that good, you know.
Wow, he is definitely.
Yeah,
you know what I posted today on Facebook? I was talking about, you know, people subscribing to my channel, how easy it was and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, now I need 1,000 subscribers, and I got 40 right now.
Right.
It's the truth. I only have 40, but that's okay. I've doubled in the last month, so that's all right.
No, that's right. I love what Michael said. Did someone mention electrocution?
I replaced a light switch in my storeroom in Henderson on Beach Street, right?
Okay, yeah.
Victor Wellborn, friend of yours and mine, came over, and we had our laundry drain was only a 2-inch pipe or something, but it needed or 1.5 inches, but it needed. He put like a 3.5, 4-inch one in because it would get a little plugged up, and it was old, man. It would start pumping out the top. But so he come over, cut the drywall out, and he put a new bigger pipe in because he was a plumber. And so I patched the drywall up, and I had to do a new light switch. And that's another electrocution story. I was up on a ladder, and I said, shit, I don't got to turn off the power for this, you know?
Right.
So I got up there, and I started farting around with it, and bam, I went off the ladder, man. I was only up about 3 or 4 steps, which was lucky because I was only about 5 feet off the ground, you know. And I went down with the screwdriver and all that stuff. But so I went over across the street because we had an electrician that worked at Stauffer, the plant in Henderson.
Oh, yeah.
He came over and he didn't turn it back on. He hooked it all up with electricity on and everything. He was laughing and shit, you know. So then I figured out every time I do anything like that around the house that involves electricity, I would make sure I've got the needle nose have to be rubber handled. Screwdriver has to be rubber handled. No hard plastic, no metal handle shit, you know.
No, and I have a habit. I have a habit if I'm just doing a light fixture or changing a plug or something. I don't even bother to turn the breaker off. I'm just careful, and I will get lit up a little bit once in a while.
Oh yeah, I got shocked so much there for a while. I started to like it.
Yeah,
it's like I wanted to get that buzz. I wanted that buzz, man.
Right. So, Michael, you must have seen the link I put up, buddy. Oh, Angela's got some NFL scores here. Let's see. Ravens 17 Bay. Oh, that's a good game, Angela. Thank you. Wow.
We were watching the Raiders and Seahawks over Riches. I don't know who won. We left before the game was over.
Oh, really? Yeah. So that's a kind of a wild ride. That whole era with the Grateful Dead.
It was. Well, it was the 60s, right?
It was like insane.
The later 60s, right?
later 60s. Yeah.
They went on, but I mean, that's when they kind of started, wasn't it? 67 or 8.
Right.
Yeah. They were a real old 60s band. Yeah.
Hey, my Niners won. Thank you, Caitlin. Yeah, I'll have to break out my shirt and hat. My Niners, all my Niners gear now. But anyway, so yeah, it was kind of crazy. You mentioned Victor Wellborn earlier.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, I came back to Henderson for a visit. And I think Mom and Dad must have told me you were playing at like Nick's Supper Club or something like that with your band.
Right.
And I went up there, and Victor Wellborn came in after you were done playing, and he pulled out his guitar. And I think you pretty much taught him initially how to play. I taught
him how to play from scratch, man.
Yeah, from scratch. Yeah.
Yeah.
He got pretty good. And
he did real good.
He showed up, and Victor was a pretty good sized guy. And at the time, you probably weighed 150 pounds. You were very thin.
Right.
And
you get on his shoulders.
You climbed up on his shoulders.
Right.
He was playing the guitar, and you were playing the guitar on his shoulders. And and the whole crowd, myself included, kind of like a mob right around you. We're all dancing in and out.
In the mosh pit, yeah. I came down scary a couple of times.
Yeah.
Off his shoulders, I came down scary. We had it down going back to the amp, and I'd get down on my and I'd get some footing on the amp, right? When I was coming off his shoulders.
Right.
But I missed a couple of times. We'd be half drunk.
That was so fun that night,
Yeah, when he got in the band, we started the shoulder thing with him because he was big enough to just lift me right up. No problem, man. I was up there just like that. I
was talking to him one time on Facebook, and he says he still has this, like, I don't know, early that you wish you had Telecaster that he got from you.
Oh, I sold it to him. His wife got a hold of me because I was getting my Les Paul, and I was wanting to sell it because I never could get used to that maple neck. Now, my Stratocaster now has a maple neck, and I love it, but I just didn't give it a chance. I was used to the rosewood and the ebony type stuff. And so I bought Les Paul, and I sold my Telecaster. I got a hold of his wife, and I said, I know Vic loves this guitar, and I do wish I had it right now.
Oh,
it was a Telecaster Deluxe. Telecaster Deluxe, white wood grain, black pick guard with a maple neck, and I put a six-piece bridge on it, and it had a Strat neck on it, though.
Gotcha.
They called it Deluxe.
I walked into a music store years ago. It was probably like, I'm going to say very early 90s. And there was a Telecaster sitting there with a maple neck, and I plugged it in, and I had never, ever in my life heard a tone so amazing. And it was $500, like a 1970 or something. And I left, and I thought about it, and I raced back there as soon as I could to buy it. I was like, what the hell was I thinking? Why did I just buy it? And I get back there, and it already sold.
You know what? That Telecaster that I sold to Vic, it sat. I was working at Gerheim Music. I bought it for myself.
Yeah.
And they gave it to me at cost when I worked there.
Oh, wow.
It cost me $180, USA make.
What? Hey, Michael, I'm sorry things aren't working out. It would have been great to have you, buddy. Well, that Stratocaster, the white one I'm pointing out, you never know when you're pointing in the right direction,
I know you don't. Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
That's this Fender, American Stratocaster, but it's called the it's called the Roadhouse. It's got the Texas Special pickups that Stevie Ray Vaughan had in it. It's called the Roadhouse. It's got a special.
Does it have? It's a regular Strat with just the 3 single pickups, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a pretty cool guitar, but you know what? I had two American Standards. One was black with a maple neck, and that one. And I kind of kept that one because there was something unique about it being, the Roadhouse Strat. But to tell you the truth, I kind of regretted it. I still regret getting rid of the black one because I think I like the tone of that actually better with the regular pickups. More of a bell-like, bright tone.
Well, there's nothing like the sound when you have a Stratocaster on that one setting of the 5-position switch it has on it, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like it's got a phase shifter on it.
Yeah.
But
there's like two kind of out of phase channels on the 5 selector switch, right?
Then when you switch to the next one up, man, you get a good funky chunking sound between the two. I love my Strats, and this one I got now is a fat Strat. It's got a double pickup in the bridge, but those pickups, that double pickup, it ain't got no tone control. It's all treble.
Oh, really?
That's what it's supposed to be. And I didn't know that. So I read all up on it until I found out, because I had another fat Strat. I'm thinking, why can't I get no bass on that one with the tone control? I read up on it and they said it's all treble. And I said, then I liked it after that, because it would cut through anything.
Wow. Yeah, I got that. I got that little Jaguar behind me, straight over this
That's
shoulder.
your Christmas present, right?
Yeah, I always wanted the surf green guitar, and it wasn't a very expensive one. But I tell you what, I took it down to some friends of mine that have the music store in Morro Bay, California. Great guy. He's got a blues band called Dire Wolf. And when I was in the Blues Society, his band was constantly opening for like big acts and stuff.
All right. Yeah.
And I read a whole bunch of reviews on this guitar. And they're all good, but they all say the same thing. It needs a professional setup. It really comes from the factory lousy. And it really did. Fret buzz and, stuff like that. Really bad fret buzz. And so I took it down there and they set it up for me for like, $70. I think it was like 90 because they put new strings in and replaced a tuning peg that was bad. And
the
brand new one. Had never been even played.
Okay.
And so, I absolutely love that guitar. So what I always grab to play,
Right.
And, it's fun. It's got the shorter neck, kind of, and
Right.
It's just a fun little guitar. It's
this one here. This is an Epiphone here.
Right.
It's an Epiphone Hummingbird. It's a really nice acoustic.
Great.
But one of the tuning keys went bad. It's got stripped out or something. So I called up Epiphone on the phone, right? I called the service department. I said, I bought it here at Guitar Center, and it says it has a lifetime warranty. And I talked to the guy for a little while, and he said, do you have the receipt? I said, no, but I'm sure I can come up with it because we put it on our account at Guitar Center.
Yeah.
And so he says, oh, forget about it. And he sent me a whole set of them, not just one.
Oh, no kidding.
He sent the whole set free.
I was going to send mine back, my bad tuning key, but I didn't yet. I still have
You don't even have to. If you just call them up, they'll just send you some.
Oh, okay.
Rich, he bought a crate. He bought a 1,000-watt crate power amp for our PA a long time ago.
Okay.
And something happened to it, and he called the company, right? They didn't even make him send it back. They sent him a brand new one.
Wow.
Some of those big outfits that have been around for a while stand behind their stuff.
Yeah, they do. That's right.
That's really cool to find out. And I was really happy that now I have 5 extra ones if something happens now.
That's great. I really need to call them and get a couple of tuning keys,
You should tell them what happened. You paid that much money. It's still under warranty. I know it's not that big of a deal, but it's nice when somebody does something cool like that.
No, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So let's see if we have any kind of a wrap up here on the Grateful Dead. I do have a lone Grateful Dead album. It's called The Best of Grateful Dead: Skeletons from the Closet.
Yeah.
And I have listened to it, and I really
that's when they got electrocuted right there.
Right. Right. I really enjoyed this album. I'll read the songs off. I may have to put my reading glasses on.
Oh no.
Okay.
I think I need regular glasses now.
Okay, you've got The Golden Road, Truckin', and I was telling you before the show started that song Truckin' down on Bourbon Street, living on Reds, vitamin C, and cocaine. That's song
amazing,
played 10 times a day when I moved to Long Beach in 1971.
Wow.
I mean, it was crazy. I thought I was living in Haight-Ashbury. It was like They had this magazine that was out telling you what drugs were good, what were bad, what to stay away from, and all
My
this
goodness, that's some great. That's almost like
and
it
it was
is
at
now.
all the newsstands. It's like a free paper, like the free press kind of a thing. And songs like "Truckin'" played all day long on the radio, and it was just a wild time there.
Yeah.
Rosemary, Sugar Magnolia, that's a great song. Saint Stephen, Uncle John's Band, Casey Jones, Driving That Train. I'll stop right there. Mexicali Blues, Turn On Your Love Light, One More Saturday Night, and A Friend of the Devil Is a Friend of Mine.
Oh
You know,
my
I
God.
went out to the Pozo Saloon. They'd been closed for a while. Great little place. It's it's about 15 miles out of town behind Santa Margarita. There's nothing out there, just big cattle ranches. This thing's been there for over 100 years. But it's a great place. They used to have these huge Mother's Day buffets out there and always live music. And Betty and I went out there a few months back, and there was a local band out there playing, and they were doing that Grateful Dead song, "The Friend of the Devil Is a Friend of Mine." And so I was making a little short video about the Pozo Saloon. I wound up every single song they did, I got a copyright claim for that. I couldn't even believe it. Hey, look what we have. Look what the cat drag did.
Hey, guys, I had to shut down my entire system. Are you guys hearing me even?
Yeah, loud and clear. I mean,
great. You know what? I've been so busy and connected with the channel for the last 2 or 3 days. When you invited me on over at my channel earlier, I didn't know if I was going to make it. I had to catch some sleep.
That's what you said, and I know exactly what you're talking about, because it was about 3 nights ago. I don't know what got into me. I think I fell asleep on the couch really early, like right after dinner, and I woke up and I had things to do, so I came in the office. Before I knew it, it was 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
and I finally went to bed, took a couple of melatonin, and went to bed. And I might have got an hour and a half sleep and had to go work on a construction site that day. And
yeah.
I was really tired.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
That's you were talking about Rachel's Ghost, and that's often why I will show up in Rachel's Ghost out of the blue for 2 or 3 days in a row, and then I'll miss 2 or 3 days in a row, mainly because I've worked myself into a tizzy. The way my channel works, I don't know how it goes for you, Royce, with the live streams and everything, but I usually shoot a video. Now that takes about an hour. I've gotten it down to where, once I've got it written, and by writing a video, I mean, I've got my notes just like you do, and you rely on your notes there live, right? And so that's done. I can get it all unset, tear down the studio, and start editing. That's the bitch. That's the bitch right there. That will take me anywhere for a real small, say a 7-minute video will take me 6 hours to edit. All right. And then you get it all edited and,
excellent job at that editing too. It's really
well, I'm getting better. I still hate the jumps. I'm trying, it's all about tracking where the face is, and then your background jumps all over the place. I'm never happy with it, but
you do a super clean job. I don't know if some people could even notice it. I'll tell you, when I used to just do like, what's funny, Jeff Davidson's here in the chat. Him and I right at the top. Him and I competed against each other in this talking wax contest where we show an album and tell a story about it, and then the whole chat judges you, And so StreamYard has something that counts all the votes and stuff. Vote for A or vote for B. Well, I wound up losing the contest to Jeff, and so when you won, you got to pick out some free albums, sometimes one, sometimes more. And so Jeff won, and Jeff goes, "Hey Royce, you go ahead and pick out the album." I'm like, "No, Jeff, you won. Pick your album out." He goes, "No, you pick an album out. He finally talked me into picking out an album. So I did, and it got mailed to me, and it was pretty cool. It was living color, and it was in color, and it was a good album. And I thank you, Jeff. And so I thought, you know what? And I'd never made a video or like, for, music video before. And so I decided, well, you know what? I'm going to do a little unboxing and tell the story about how I wound up with this album from my good friend Jeff Davidson. And I did. And that was the very first one I did. And the next week I unboxed some, whether it was Rolling Stones or Beatles or whoever. And one by one, I started picking out bands that I liked, and whatever albums I had. I was usually rushing around trying to buy more. Whatever albums I had, I'd show them and I'd talk about them for that particular band. And so those were always being edited too. And I think the worst thing I did, Paul Stanley had come out. Kiss's Paul Stanley had put together a blues band. No, I'm sorry. See, here I go again. This was the problem. It was a soul band, and they'd done a couple of little concerts before, the same group. And he, and somebody said, what are you doing a soul band? He goes, well, you got to remember, before there was Kiss, what I was listening to, and it was the same thing I was listening to, was soul music, and he was a big fan of soul music. He started listing all the bands that he, liked and stuff like that. So I did one of my longer shows that I had to, edit, pre-recorded show and edit. And every time I was supposed to say soul, I said blues. And so I'm all done. It's like about 15 minutes before showtime. And I was just horrified. I was just checking it out a little bit. And every time I was to say soul, I said blues, I'm like, oh my God.
I've done that. I've done that.
I didn't even have time to really add soul. I just had to get rid of, blues, And I got all done, and I'm like, oh my God, I got just enough time for it to upload, and maybe I'll be on time with the time that I'd scheduled, right?
Right.
And so I'm doing a quick review, and I get to the point where I hold the album up and say Kiss's Paul Stanley, because it wasn't just his band. It was his album I was reviewing. I was reviewing soul. It was a soul show where I had the Temptations and the Supremes and all these different people. And if you ever want to get a kick, pick up the Temptations' greatest hits, and the liner notes are by America's father, Bill Cosby, and done long before he got in all the trouble he got in.
Back when that was actually a good thing to be, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Who would have ever thought? I mean, he was my favorite comedian. I actually bought his LPs. Yeah, I saw him twice. A friend of mine, his first name was actually Wayne, but they named him Ko. He was born in Japan, Anglo guy. But him and I followed Cosby outside of the Redwood ice rink, which he was performing at in Santa Rosa, about 60 miles north of San Francisco, right? And we followed him and Charles Schultz, who owned the ice arena, right, out to and across the street to Charles Schultz's private tennis court. So here, Ko and I, they had these slat windows down real low, like about between where your ankle and your knee was, right? And we're sitting there and we're watching Cosby and Charles Schultz of Peanuts fame play tennis, cussing away and everything else. And later on that night, tears were coming from my eyes. No matter what he wound up becoming or whether he was that even then, the man was funny, man. The man was hilarious. And you never heard color in his humor, even though he'd be talking about being a black guy and a black family and all of that. All you heard was family in his comedy. And I loved that about him. I really like that. It's too bad he wound up going down a different road or a route,
Yeah.
Who knows what's the truth, though? Who knows?
Yeah. Well, there's always that, too.
They go after people. I'm not saying it's all false. I'm just saying who knows. That's all,
Yeah.
Because, they get these people that go after celebrities and stuff that got tons of money. And if that one little thing happened and they didn't like it, they got this big old scandal going. Some of them.
Yeah. It seems though that there's a lot of smoke, and I come from a family that taught me where there's smoke, there's often fire. So
there could be, well, sometimes you just got to stay away from the smoke.
yeah, that's true. Hey, you know, Richie, you were talking, what really piqued my interest tonight in tonight's conversation. You were talking about electrocution.
Yeah, right.
And then Roy said, "Hey, does anybody else have any good?" Boy, I'll tell you what. In my first, well, every single band I've ever been in, I've experienced electrical issues. It doesn't matter how good your equipment is. All it takes is a faulty system. Yeah. And my big thing is, to this day, if I ever perform live, I always perform. Usually I use an SM58, Shure SM58. That's a great live mic. Yeah. Right. And windscreens. Now, it doesn't always work, Richie, but I'll tell you what, the shock, if it does jump that windscreen, it's a hell. I've gotten shocked so bad I couldn't sing. My lips went numb. Yeah. I've gotten shocked so bad my whole right arm went numb. We had to get on to the next song, so I just sang on that, Yeah. So yeah, I've been through it all.
It's usually it was due to, they even started selling stuff that for your amps, that would give you the extra grounding.
Right.
For the clubs that they had substandard wiring systems,
Right. And you bring the best wiring that you could get, the very best wiring. And all it took was a roadhouse that was barely plugged up with a generator out by the river, and you're in trouble, And so, I think every musician has put up with that.
Too much power sometimes for the gig.
Right.
Their breaker boxes couldn't handle it.
Right.
We had we had lights that we built ourselves. It was probably the problem, right? and we were blowing the breakers at the bars and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So we had to only use some of them. We had these
exactly
racks, right? That would light up, a small stadium in the bar, right? But there were only 2 racks of them, and there was probably 12 or 16 lights in each one. And, but we were blowing the breakers at bars and stuff, so we could only use half the lights in them,
Right.
Yes. We had to get a what you call a converter that would convert the power down for a normal place to handle it.
Right. And it was interesting. I remember the day I bought my first Shure microphone. That was a piece of change. Especially when you're brand new. I'm in my 3rd or 4th band. We're starting to, I'm starting to get good-ish around that time, and I'm still playing through this horrid little Standell amp. That was my first. It was like a 30 watt Standell with a Jensen speaker, tweed. Right. I wish to hell I still had this thing, because it did have a sound. Right. And but that was the most expensive amp. That was the closest thing to a professional amp that I could afford. I had just bought my first Gibson guitar, an SG, but dig this. It was the SG 250, ceramic pickups. And I took it home to my mom, right? And I go, do you realize that the Beatles would play this guitar? Because it was my first name brand guitar. I worked all summer in an upholstery shop, learned to tuck and roll, by the way, to get that guitar. Every dime went into it. And I think at the time it was like $300. And historically speaking, if there's any musicians out there, that is one SG that had a bit of a black eye as far as even, its reputation. The ceramic pickups didn't pick up enough when you're playing with a 30-watt amp and you're playing the larger gigs, you're not getting the volume. Right around that time, some guy was selling I believe it was, it was the SM58. I believe it was like for $20 at the time. Good. And it was like $20 back then is like 150 now, 200, you know, I mean, it was, you know, yeah, that was a bit to put in. And I remember I had just gotten, my lips had just gone totally numb the night before. And I finally traded in my realistic microphone straight from Radio Shack.
Those were popular in those days.
Yeah, in a pinch, you know. But I finally got it, and all of a sudden the vocals were just transformed overnight. I knew what everybody was talking about. That mic
are workhorses, man.
That mic is still sold today. Most people use it. It is, and it's about what, 100? Well, last time I looked at it, about 110, 120.
110 bucks without the cord. The cord's another 30 or 40 bucks.
Yeah,
but they're great microphones. You can't hardly hurt them.
Oh, and they're great for probably an SM57 is a little better for acoustic guitar. But in a pinch, you can use an SM58 to mic an acoustic guitar or for lead vocals. Yeah, both of them are great mics.
That's once you got a hold of an SM58, you never want to let it go.
No, you don't.
I bought 2 of those and one of the Shure mics that screw on the microphone. They have the extra piece and they screw right on. I bought 2 SM58s and one of those screw-on ones, Shure, from an Elvis impersonator that was working in my band for a while. After he was down and out, and he calls me, he needed money, and I just don't have any money, man. And I said, he got all the way down to $25 for all 3 of them, and I had to buy them.
Ooh, yeah, great price.
And I sold one of them to a friend of mine for $25, and I had the other 2, and I used that one forever. I even soldered the wires in it a couple of times and kept using it, you know. But
guys, you got to help me out here. I've got some background music I've been trying to play. I'm going to turn it loud just for a minute.
That's it. I can hear it.
No.
Is that us?
You can't hear it?
Yeah, I can hear it. That's Emily. That's our band.
Yeah, that's your band. I know.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, Royce, the last time you asked us this, I then took, a portion of that and featured it on my channel to kind of throw business your way. The soundtrack was on that. But during the course, neither Richie or I at the time could hear it. Okay. But as soon as I played the video back, the soundtrack was there all of a sudden. So it may be something to do with it doesn't play over our conversation for our sakes. I don't know.
Yeah.
You still hear it right now, though.
You're hearing it? Wow.
Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's great.
All right then.
Yeah, that's Jackbone Dixie.
All right.
This was on satellite radio, along with 7 up more of our songs for a while.
Well, the piece that's playing in the back of the portion that I was, that's on my channel, Richie, I really like that piece. That sounded actually really good. It was nice because usually I slap a soundtrack underneath my videos.
Really?
Yeah, and I didn't have to because it came through. And so that's the soundtrack for that video, buddy.
That's great.
Okay.
That's fantastic. I'm going to have to watch that video. Didn't I watch that video the other day? It's gotten several thousand views.
It's one, there's 2 that I've shared from your show, Royce, that have done extremely well. That's one. And then the one where you and I believe it was Lou Mars, we're all sitting around, we're discussing the release of the new release of the Revolver album.
Yeah,
and that did extremely well too.
Yeah.
Which was the night you guys got the argument over something.
Some of those through. Is it okay if I send them through like part of my playlist or whatever?
What's that?
I've been trying to send those through for people to see.
Yeah. It's interesting. This show, you cover all kinds of things, and this show needs to be bigger than it is. It needs to catch fire. And you know what? If you are out there and you're enjoying some of the stuff that Royce, does, he puts a ton of research. I can tell that every time. And he refers to his notes, but man, you can tell the guy's really been looking into it. And like he says, it's free of charge. It doesn't cost you anything. And we got to get this channel on the map, because this is my home away from home, Royce. I want to see it do good.
No, I hear you, brother. I appreciate all your help too.
Oh, man, you know what? It's quality. Right from the beginning when I discovered your channel. And I love all of your videos, by the way. I'm still combing through them. Combing through them. Because as my channel's gotten bigger and more busier, it's tougher for me to hit, other people's videos. I think I heard Rachel saying something like that on one of her live streams recently it's getting tough to get to everybody's video because there is I'm part of a small community, but the small community's gotten a lot bigger than I've been used to, and so it's very, very interesting, but I love it. I love supporting other channels. I love the whole, what happens here is this is where you get a chance to connect live. And my channel, right now, I may do something live down the road. I've been swearing I'm going to do that recently. If I ever do, you got to be on it, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely. But this is where, what is it? The rubber meets the road is live.
It is. But I it's funny you're saying that because sometimes I wonder if I should just be doing all pre-recorded.
Well, there's the good and the bad about both. I'll tell you, the worst thing in the world to happen is you put together a video because not everything's gold, and you do your best. And some videos, I was really shocked that my Billy Corgan video didn't do very well. And the more I thought about it, I go, well, they've been out of the limelight. He kind of does go more and more Billy-ish than Smashing. And I think there's been a loss. But see, that's a perfect example. You put in all of that time. That was a long video, hours and hours of editing. And then, of course, as soon as you have a long video, that's hours of upload, right? Especially if you're shooting in a high quality, 4K format, which is what I usually do.
Yesterday, when I was at my son's house yesterday at his birthday party, I got to see my newest grandson, who's only like a month old right now, but he was 5 weeks early. His name's Jackson. But anyway, Jackson Eugene Headings. But anyway, I made a commitment because my wife's girlfriend, the mother, new grandbaby, her name is Taylor, and her son's name is Carter, and I'm kind of his step grandpa. Well, I am. And I hired him as my editor. He's 12 years old.
I totally get that.
Is that funny? But that's the way it is nowadays, right?
Yeah.
And he showed me all of his editing app and everything. He's got it down like nobody's business. Go through all these steps. Here's what you have to do. And I said, okay, forget it, Carter. That's his name, Carter. I said, Angela, you're hired. I said, because I'm never it's going to take me too long. You're going to have to do editing for me. So
well, see, Richie, for me, I enjoy editing. That's one of the reasons I wanted to do a YouTube channel. It's when I think of a content creator, that to me is a content creator is like you get in and you get to put, it's the same thing with me with music. I love writing a song, then I love developing a bass line for it, and then add a lead line that may be changed by a better guitarist later. Yeah,
you don't notice the time when you're doing it,
right?
Because it starts to get happening, and you're like, all right, this is something good now. You put it together, and you created something.
Right. Well, I get the same charge putting my YouTube channel out as creating music almost, for me. And so I like the editing, but I've got to get it down, because it is so time consuming to get it down.
I don't give myself enough credit. I could probably learn it, but I really have a hard time taking the first step.
Right.
So I'm going to get some videos. I made a commitment yesterday after Carter and him showing me what I had to download and stuff so I'd be able to edit, you know?
Yeah.
And he's on something called Cupco or CapCut or something.
I haven't heard of it.
It's called CapCut or something like that. It's an app for downloading, for editing.
And you don't have to get complicated for it. I run my swear to God, this is the truth. I don't have a computer.
I won't.
I'm looking right now, right into the screen of my computer. It's called an iPad Pro. I use my iPad Pro and I film my videos on my iPhone 13 Pro Max. And I've added a professional lens to that to get an even better picture. And
what do you do? Download a professional lens app or something?
No. Well, they have a camera app that goes with that lens, but I don't even use that. I'll tell you what I do is I have a square adapter that you slip your iPhone in to, and then you screw in a professional $200. That's what I paid for. Hey, it was see, I needed a phone. I needed a camera, and I needed a camera that was going to shoot in 4K. Well, I had access to a phone that could shoot in 4K, and with an adaptive lens, I get a better look. And then on my iPad, no computer, folks, the whole channel is not run by computer. Down the line, I will be going computer.
You're not on a computer right now?
No, not at all. I'm on my iPad, buddy. I run everything with my iPhone and my iPad.
You mean like sort of like a tablet?
Yes, exactly. And
my tablet makes nice videos.
Well, here's the deal. If you've got an iPad, LumaFusion. Now, LumaFusion, it costs about $50, or at least it did the last time I purchased it. It is damn near as good as the very best editing program you can get on any computer at all. You get great results, and often, I mean, you know how I edit? My wife goes to sleep. I'm laying in bed next door. My iPad's on my lap, and I start editing, folks.
It's real big then. It's not like a big screen.
No, it's a 13-inch screen, brother. That's all it is.
Okay, that's what I'm looking at too. So you've got a bigger iPad then.
Right. Now, if I really want to get in and edit tight, I can take my iPad, see, right here, that's it, and I can put it behind me and attach it to that screen, which is a 6K screen, and I can edit and get really good results.
The fireplace?
The iPad Pros, Richie, are so good these days that they are really starting to approach computer level. But my whole point, the reason I even wanted to bring this up is if anybody's out there that's watching right now that has a channel going, well, I need I really need a computer, or I need that what is that Canon M50 camera, that'll cost you secondhand on sale $750 right there, just to get that.
I just almost bought one for like $600 the other day. I'm just not ready to do that. All in one computer. You've got the screen. It's all in one.
Yeah. Right.
The screen's pretty big. It's I don't know, 25-inch or whatever.
Right.
But everything's inside the whole.
Right.
Right.
And it's got a camera, a webcam that comes with it, like the one I got, mounts on the top of the screen.
Yeah,
exactly.
I have a little Logitech. It's like $59. It's got the speaker.
Mine's a Depths Tech. Mine's called a
Right.
Depths Tech.
Well, see, and because I have my iPad, I'm never looking here. See, there's where my camera is. I'm busy looking at Royce over here and Richie over there, and so it always looks like I'm not looking at the camera because I don't have, and it's weird because the new regular iPads have moved their camera so that it would sit right where you guys probably have your camera. And yet the new iPad Pros didn't do that. And I think it's because, they have the magnetic strip up there where you can put your Apple Pencil and everything. But my point is whatever equipment you have, put out the best videos, the clearest video. Here's another thing. Sound is more important than the actual video on YouTube. A lot of people don't know that. But it's been statistically proven that if your sound isn't decent, that'll be the first thing that'll drive a viewer away from a channel is bad sound. And I'm fighting bad sound all the time, because tonight I'm on these headphones. I'm at the mercy of them. And when I do my videos, I just use a little lavalier microphone. It's about a $20 microphone. And like I said, I started my whole channel on a budget. And you shouldn't have to have the latest and greatest of everything to make decent quality content, you know?
Well, it took me a long time to get to where I'm at right now. But I'm still using. I took down my big old microphone on a boom, and I got a phantom power unit and all this stuff, and I still wasn't getting that great of sound. So that's what I got for Christmas, and I got lights too. But the lights are fine. But I'm not right now. I'm broadcasting through the microphone, the real tech that's in the laptop.
Yeah. And you're getting pretty decent sound right now, on my end anyway.
I don't use it anymore. I don't play live anymore on the stream because the sound is so bad.
I'm gonna see if anybody's got any advice. I'll be back in 1 second.
So what I'm doing, what I do, but the microphone in the computer sounds better than the external one. When I'm pre-recording, it doesn't sound good for music live, but pre-recorded it's okay. It's only my guitar and me, right? So I know there's lots of other things I can add, like mixers that do more microphones for guests. If I have guests in my house,
right?
Set up and we're sitting around a desk and stuff, you know.
Well, when we all grow up, we're gonna sound like Dan one day. Dan the man. That guy's got superior sound. Yeah. Oh, I love this.
I bought all right. Some time ago, but I didn't. And everybody said it sounds great, but they can't hear me talk. So I was trying to avoid headphones because I'm so used to not wearing them anymore.
Wait a minute now. See, that's the problem right there. You say you can't hear yourself while you're broadcasting on that mic?
No, I can't hear. They can hear me, but I can't hear anybody else.
Oh, wow. Oh, you don't have to hear yourself when you're sitting there talking.
I really haven't found out too much about it. It does have a jack built in to put headphones in, so maybe I'll try that. I almost forgot I had it. I put it away and didn't stop messing with it.
So the mic has a jack on it?
Yeah, the mic itself has a jack on it.
For headphones?
For headphones, yeah.
Okay, so is it Bluetooth?
Is it Bluetooth? I don't know.
If it is, you could just get a little, like, do you have Bluetooth on your headphones, Michael?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm running through right now.
You just got
actually, you know what? I noticed my sound in the last video that I did with you guys was a lot better than it had been in my entire time showing up at Royce's place. But what I did is I bought, instead of rebuying the new, the iPod Pros, I bought Beats Studios. And frankly, for $99, personally speaking, they have better bass response. They've done better here on this live, stream. And if there's anything lacking, there's not quite the crystal clarity with the mids with the pros, but it's $150 cheaper.
Do they have decent bass on them?
The bass is what really stands out.
I've got some pods that they have they're not Bluetooth, but they came with my wireless monitor setup. I use for PA.
This one's got.
They don't have good bass.
All these different settings. You got bi-directional for face-to-face interviews. You've got podcast streaming, voiceovers. You've got multi-person podcasts. Vocals, instruments. I mean,
it's multi-person.
It's got the vibration damper built in, or if you're moving.
I don't know how do you get multi-person podcast? Oh, is that just live streaming with more than one?
Well, it's a setting on it. It's a setting that's built into it. Yeah.
I'm thinking like you got guests like with you, but I don't know. Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I make sense now. Okay.
Right.
Well, it may be that you've got two directional mics.
That's right.
And one is set, and if you're going to interview somebody, you can set the mic between you. hit that setting. That's what it sounds like to me.
All around,
Right.
It'll pick up everybody around you.
Everybody around. Right.
But the setup I want is Dan's setup. That man sounds great. Every time he shows up on your show, he sounds like, "Hi, I'm Dan, the man."
I've gone through so much trying to get a picture and a sound. I've been in every sound setup and every kind of light situation.
Yep.
I remember I told you that one day I spent 3 hours positioning that mic that was on the boom stand, and then we talked. It was Christmas Day, I think. Yeah. But it was 3 hours before I actually came on live, and I sent a link out to Royce, and he caught on to it. We were talking.
Oh, man.
Well, it's been 3 hours trying to get a mic position. It's horrible stuff, you know. I'm really a stick with that kind of stuff. You
have to stay current to a degree, but you know what? I think the important thing is stay creative. You know, I think staying creative is a lot more important than the gear.
This is Rich Gettings, and I'm current to a degree.
There's so many people doing what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? As far as like the music shows. I mean, I go to YouTube and I've just dozens upon dozens, you know. But you know what I also like though is like next week I'm going to do a show on some of New York's clubs. I did the clubs on Sunset one time. You know, all the different clubs down there, the Whiskey and Rainbow and all those clubs that we talked about them and the history of them. So I really enjoyed doing that. So next Sunday I'm going to be doing some clubs in New York, CBGB, and also the WHA Club. And if I got it right, I haven't studied it that much, but I've got a bunch of stuff to print. The WHA Club is kind of like a stable with a place where you could hose it out, a little trough running down the middle. And it was purchased by David Lee Roth's uncle, who built the WHA Club. Now, the WHA Club is where Jimi Hendrix was discovered by Chas Chandler, who used to be the bass player for the Animals before they were even the Animals. They decided, you know, then Eric Burdon came in and they changed it to the Animals, and then after they put a couple of hit songs out, they changed it to Eric Burdon and the Animals. Well, Chas Chandler left, and I think I'll turn that music off real quick. Chas Chandler left. Okay, there we go. And so he wanted to manage and produce and all this other stuff. So he wound up going to New York to look for bands. And
Chas did, right?
Chas did. A gal who was dating Keith Richards, whose name was also recommended that he go to the WHA Club and hear this guy named Jimmy play. You know, I think it was Jimmy James and the Blue Flames at the time. So anyway, he went in there and he was really impressed, and they started talking, and Jimmy agreed to let him be the manager, and that's when they took off to England together. But there's just this kind of history in these clubs that I'm talking about, and so there'll be some fun stories to talk about on those two clubs.
You know what? I was thinking of doing something eventually around East Coast versus West Coast rockers over the years, because you know you've got your Bruce Springsteens, your Bon Jovi, East Coaster, Billy Joel. Never leave New York City again in my entire life. I will only play New York City. You know, the East Board or the East Coast mafioso. You know, big rulers. The displaced Jan Winter group. You know, and then you've got the West Coast, which of course is divided. You know, Northern California versus Southern California. It's not that simple anymore.
No,
but you know, and the power structures around those two bases, you know, would be a very interesting video to cover, I think.
Oh, I do too. And Seattle, West Coast also. Seattle's got a pretty strong.
And they always had a great music scene, but you know, of course, in the late '80s, early '90s, that took off and became kind of the West Coast sound. And then, do you include, if you're going to do that, do you include like the Miami sound with the East Coast sound. And then what do you do with it? I think it would be a blast, to cover that.
Yeah. Well, and you could also do different genres too. The rap thing, East West Coast competition with the rap was like,
and those power structures that swung both ways, Royce. What about Billy Graham? Big on the East Coast, big on the West Coast. Yeah, he made both the power centers, his playground, more or less.
Right. Yeah.
Be interesting.
All kinds of different stuff. You just you gotta put some thought into it and come up with some stuff that Cafe Wa. Yeah. Yes, Mike, it's Cafe Wa, like what without a T. But,
yeah. Guys,
But
I'm signing off.
Yeah, no,
There's
all kinds of stuff, and
I'll see you
I've
later.
enjoyed. Okay, who's leaving?
I'm leaving.
Oh, you are. Okay.
Oh,
You're just leaving. Go, but have fun. I gotta go. I gotta go check on. All right.
Okay. Thanks.
good night, Richie.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. All right.
Night. So anyway, so there's all kinds of different things you can do, and I actually like going around, the little travel videos and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of travel shows that have huge audiences. I mean, there's some girls that sell all over the place, and and then there was a couple I'd watch once in a while that would just basically just walk around different places in Mexico, and they had a huge audience,
Yeah.
There's just so many different things, but being on permanent vacation and making videos would be fun.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, you've threatened that you're ready to retire any year now, right? So are you thinking along those lines, where you could go more full-time on YouTube or whatever that you choose to do?
I think about all kinds of different things. I know that when I do retire, we'd like to take off for a while, and just go cross country in a motorhome and just see a lot of the stuff in America that you haven't seen yet, and it would be fun because of course there's no way I could not make a bunch of videos out doing that kind of stuff.
Of course. Yeah.
And but I mean, there are people that just I ran into one show, some older gentleman in a van just traveling to different lakes, and talking about them. And these people have big followings.
Oh, travel videos are real big on YouTube.
Yeah.
Huge. What's a real big now on YouTube is van lifers who are quitting. Why I'm quitting the van life,
Okay.
That's all of a sudden all over the place.
I didn't know.
Yeah. They do it because they set it up. They think they're going to start a channel. They'll get that monetized. They picture themselves in their van, their computer, doing all the things. And they put their money into the whole setup. And it's 2 or 3 months down the line, the van breaks down. They're stuck in mud they can't get out of. There weren't enough chains invented to help them out of that snowstorm, and they're freezing their asses off, and the food tastes horrible because they don't want to cook on that horrid little stove. And every raccoon in America has discovered their food no matter where they wind up, and that's usually the whole video, and those kind of videos though even make they get a lot of views. I mean, tens and hundreds of thousands of views on some of these.
Very surprising,
Yeah. I think it's kind of like how I felt when I first saw the movie Roadhouse. Yeah. I really wanted to live in that freaking barn, Royce, and I came real close to moving into a situation like that, but clearer heads prevailed. But you got into the romance of that movie, and of course I'm into martial arts, so the whole movie was based on martial arts and a guy living off on his own. Where have we seen that before? Oh yeah, kung fu.
Right,
which I was a major fan of also. Bruce Lee's one of my personal heroes. And so when I saw Roadhouse, you know, I just wanted that life. And I think that's what happens with the van life. You know, everybody thinks of the wonderful part. They think a clear, sunny afternoon, 80 degrees, with them and their significant other and any children who dare to come, and one or two pets, and the food tastes wonderful and everything's great. Well, it's not always like that, you know.
I got to grab something because you brought something up that I don't normally talk about, but these used to be on the wall. They're not on the wall anymore. Okay.
All right, guys, you've seen it first here. Royce up against the wall.
Okay, turn this around. That's me, right? Let me see. Right there. That's me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I was an instructor at Frank Woolsey's Kung Fu Sansu studio. This was in the city of Orange, but I also worked in Anaheim.
Dude, you and I didn't know this about you, Royce. You and I've got a ton. I'm a second degree black belt. I'm a certified instructor in Taekwondo. And with the UWTA, matter of fact, those are my certificates behind me that you see in my videos. There's two up there now, and I have one here on the floor. My first degree's on the floor. One of those is my second degree, and the other is my second degree confirmed instructor status. So, wow, I didn't know that about you. I had no idea you were a martial artist.
Talk about it too much, actually, but it was like a real passion at one point. I mean, I even quit a higher paying job to work as an instructor. You know, I mean, that's very unusual for me.
I always instructed under the table myself, you know, because I was working also as a certified nursing. You know, I had my certification as a psych tech. I was a licensed psych tech. That's what I did to pay the bills, right? But I would also, you know, instruct at a couple of schools, and usually under the table. You know, but the money was good.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for coming. And we were joined by the R&B show. I know I see him on your channel a lot, Michael.
Oh, yeah, Bruce. Oh, amazing. He just did a video on the possibility of Pink Floyd ever. Yeah, he does an excellent analysis on this, by the way, Royce. He breaks it down why they probably will never actually get together to record actual new music. So we're probably not, and I agree with him on that analysis. And then he goes into, but hope springs eternal. Could the three of them, you know, because of course Richard Wright has passed away, but 3 out of the 4 most famous members of Pink Floyd possibly getting together, and you know, that's what we all hope for. But Bruce's videos, by the way, if you guys have not seen any of Bruce's videos, and he also does videos with Ron. That's why it's called the R&B show, Ron and Bruce, right? But whether Ron's there or not, Bruce will occasionally, I think Ron's done a solo video at one point too, but usually if it's a solo video, it's Bruce. And Bruce has been a great supporter of my channel as well. So thanks, Bruce.
I see him in the comments. Yeah, good to see you here, Bruce. Thank you.
He's awesome.
I will be coming to your channel soon. How often?
Oh yeah, do yourself a favor, Royce. The man is eloquent. He thinks. He's got a good set of ears. All right. And he's a lot younger than me. And his knowledge for his youth and his interests for where he is, you know, man, he's top notch. Top notch.
Thank you. Thank you. I will.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of you for the mention. Absolutely. Well, that's great. I need to be watching this channel. And I will.
Oh, yeah. You'll enjoy it.
My way. I'll be checking it out really, really soon. Yeah. So anyway,
he likes a lot of the same bands we do too. He covers a lot of the same music. He loves the Police. He loves, of course, Pink Floyd. He is a big Zeppelin fan. He's a major McCartney fan. Oh, I love you, Bruce. You know, because McCartney, man, McCartney. If I had to choose, you know, they were talking about in one of the streams here in the last couple of days, who would be your favorite solo artist? And you know, people choose Elvis or they choose so and so. And I would, if I was going to choose just a solo artist, I would probably pick David Bowie as being my favorite solo artist. Doing as a solo artist what he did and the territory he covered is wonderful. But if you're allowed to pick somebody who was in a band before they became a solo artist, McCartney is the guy, and he barely beats out John. And I've made this clear many times. The only reason he beats out John Lennon is because some asshole came around and took John Lennon away from us far too soon. So we don't know what John would have done, but we do know what McCartney did, and he's a genius. I don't care what anybody says. He's a genius.
I believe that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Amazing talent. Just amazing.
Right.
Yeah. I feel the same way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who can't find something from McCartney? Matter of fact, that's probably where, like, if you're into heavy rock, like on my channel, you know, I am way into Led Zeppelin. All right. That's about as anti-Beatles as you can get. Right. And often a lot of heavy Led Zeppelin fans have trouble being Beatle fans, you know, and to me, it's all about the genres and subgenres of rock. And what the Beatles do over here, nobody can touch. What Zeppelin did over here, there were a few that came close, but not quite. Not even Richie Blackmore with Deep Purple. They just couldn't quite touch them. And so to me, it's all a big play. Music is a big playground. And sometimes you're on the, you know, the little centrifugal force ride, what is that, a merry-go-round, and then you're on the swings. And sometimes you're jumping off the swings. You know, I play on every single ride in the park. But there are certain rides, certain things, certain aspects of music I'm just not a big fan of for whatever reasons. But
well, you know,
that's what makes it interesting. Right?
I was gonna say that is what's interesting, because you know, like the Beatles. I mean, who didn't love the Beatles? You know, and then it got down to, you know.
Well, there are a few. There are a few out there that don't like the Beatles.
I was just a kid, and I was a big Beatles fan. And my cousins in California were big Beach Boys fans. So in the summertime, when we go visit our cousins in California from Las Vegas, where I lived, we would debate the Beatles versus the Beach Boys, you know. And me and my one cousin Johnny James in Bakersfield would exhaust ourselves throwing hit songs at each other from one or the other of the bands, you know. And it was kind of fun, you know. And then later on, it was kind of like the Beatles were with the Beatles, a fantastic band, and we all loved them. But the Rolling Stones seemed a little heavier, and the Yardbirds were a little heavier, and, you know, Eric Burdon and the Animals were great too. And there was all, you know, the whole British Invasion. It was just insane. You know, even the Dave Clark Five had one of the biggest fan clubs in the world, you know. And,
they were huge.
Huge. And there's so many of them, you kind of forget about them when time goes on.
Right. Yeah, they've kind of gotten forgotten, but they were right up the charts with the Beatles, the Stones. I mean, you know, it's like the 70s when you had Stevie Wonder, Paul Simon, Paul McCartney. There's like five. Billy Joel. They ruled the 70s as far as hits, right? The Dave Clark Five was one of those.
Dave Clark Five was one of those, yeah. I started drifting away from the Beatles, you know, early there, and I got into soul music real heavy, you know, Otis Redding and the Temptations and all those great bands. Listening to all of them for a while there. Me and my friends were kind of just right there, you know. That's listening to that most of the time, and that was after the British invasion and all that stuff, right? And then then things happened, like you the Cream and Creedence Clearwater. First 2 8-tracks I bought were Disraeli Gears and Bayou Country. And then I kind of left soul behind. So I was constantly, refining myself musically. And then all of a sudden, the Beatles came out with Sgt. Pepper's, Lonely Hearts Club Band. We were starting to get more into the psychedelic thing, And I wound up, going back in that direction too. That and Magical Mystery Tour. And my older brother was 9 years older than me, and he'd invite me and my friends to come out to his house. And we were so young, sometimes we hitchhiked from Henderson to Las Vegas to his house. And he was a craps dealer, him and his roommate. And we'd go out there and hang out and listen to Sgt. Pepper's,
Well, you talk about the Beach Boys. First of all, the Beach Boys, okay, they're giant. All right. You've got Brian, Brian was a freaking genius on so many levels. He was a songwriter on the level of McCartney and Lennon. He was the producer on the level of George Martin. He had access to the Wrecking Crew, to play the perfect instrument for the perfect song. He had access to Phil Spector, getting tips and everything. He was learning. He was in the hottest recording place on planet Earth at that time with the best equipment. But here's the deal about the Beatles and why I would choose the Beatles over the Beach Boys. With all of that Brian had at his access, and it does not take away one iota of his genius when I say this, these 4 young lads over in England were playing their own damn instruments and sounding just as good as any freaking Beach Boy song. And they didn't have to go get Hal Blaine to play the drums for them, or Glenn Campbell to come in and play and by the way, Glenn Campbell is a fabulous guitar player.
Oh, he really is. Yeah.
And he was in the Beach Boys for a short period of time, and he was part of the Wrecking Crew. For those of you who do not know who the Wrecking Crew is, the Wrecking Crew was a group of probably 12 to 25-ish musicians that are on every freaking hit you've ever heard, and you didn't know they were there. Yes, and they were all out of Carol Kay, bassist, who did that fabulous bass line for the Beach Boys' psychedelic hit, Good Vibrations, one of the best bassists on the planet, and a female working in a man's world, If you ever get a chance to see the documentary on the Wrecking Crew, check that out. But despite that armament, despite all that Brian had there, that's what he had. And he did the very best he had with it. Right. The Beatles would pick up their usually Epiphones. They weren't even into Gibsons for the most part. They're Epiphones. Or, everybody talks about the Hofner bass. And I wish McCartney would throw that freaking thing away. I know. His best bass was the Rickenbacker. All right. That thing sang. I'm a bass player. That's the bass that he should be playing. And but everybody wants to see the violin. It was a cheap bass, and it barely stayed in tune. Yeah, later when the Beatles got big, he had people work on it. Now it plays like a charm, but I'm wondering what's left of the original rig,
Oh, I know.
But anyway, that's what I'm saying. You've got the Beach Boys, and then you've got the Beatles over here. And, of course, they would have orchestras. George Martin would bring in orchestras. But even at that point, and it was usually everybody goes, well, John Lennon was the anti-orchestra guy. Not really. It was Paul who was always chomping at George's bit there, always saying, well, no, I don't want it to sound like Madhavani or whatever, person. I don't want a bunch of tremolo on those strings. He was the one that was kind of, well, we'll do orchestra, but we got to be real careful. A lot of people said that Paul was he was being hypocritical when he was caught stating in the Get Back movie that's on Disney Plus that he was actually contemplating strings for the long winding road. And so therefore, when he was jamming on Phil Spector, he should have shut his mouth because we caught you were contemplating strings. Paul was always contemplating strings. So shut the fuck up. You don't know what you, excuse my language. You don't know what you're talking about. You know, the man, everybody goes, oh, Paul's the Tutti Frutti guy. You couldn't sit next to the guy. You know, I mean, the man is an amazing bass player, a great guitarist, fantastic drummer. And gosh, I can't even begin to do on keyboards. I studied music theory on keyboards. I play like a 5-year-old. I know how to make chords. And then I can mess up. And when I'm writing stuff, I can get things going. All right. But I understand music theory through keyboard study. My high school music teacher hammered it into me. That's how I learned, right? So I'm not a keyboardist at all, but when I watch Paul McCartney, I mean, he's right up there with Elton John. Yeah. Right? He's right up there with Billy Joel, and Billy Joel is supposed to be a pretty damn good keyboard player. I'm not an expert in that. My area is guitar, bass, things like that. But damn, the man, you know, and he could write rock and roll. He could write ballads. He could write like 42 different types of ballads. What do you want? What do you want? When he dies, Royce, when he passes away, you know, you talk about a morning and you watch his entire life history will be reassessed because he has still been battling the black eye of John Lennon passing first and the fact that they were separate and they never got back together officially. And so, you know, when John died, we got all kinds of nonsense. Well, John was really the Beatles. John was the guy that did this. John did that. John and Paul evenly. When the Beatles were together, they were each other's co-equal. There was no better. And the only reason Paul slightly is in my favor is because we got more time with the guy. That's all. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, more time. Takes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Right. And you know what? He didn't waste our time, did he?
No.
Think of the music he supplied for us. You know, you can think of, well, I don't like this album and that album, and I don't like that album, and I don't like that time period by him. Yeah. Is there like 3 or 4 albums that you do like? Name how many people that have made 3 or 4 albums that you don't even care for their style that you actually like. Not very many artists can breach those kind of walls, Royce. And McCartney can do it. And you know what? Relatively speaking, he's a nice guy. He can be, you know, he's got an ego out to, but you can't walk this planet and be a billionaire and be a Beatle without an ego. But for a guy, you know, he keeps it in check for the most part. You know, a personal hero of mine for the most part, except for his ticket scamming. He can go to hell for that.
Right.
Not a fan of that, never will be. You know, no matter how big of a fan I am of anybody, you overcharge, you don't make new music, then you're a waste of our time. Please leave the arena. Elvis did it. You can leave the building anytime.
Right.
You know?
Oh yeah, no, it's getting out of control, the ticket prices and stuff.
Oh God.
I'm not buying front row seats, but but I, you know, like the Alice Cooper show, I couldn't have spent more than $100. And I thought I really had a good time seeing Alice Cooper.
Yeah, and he's touring this year, but it looks like I checked him out because actually it was you, Royce, talking about Alice Cooper last year. I wanted to see him. I guess he's just touring the East Coast.
Oh, he
this
is.
Year. Yeah. Well, I looked up whatever, unless they add to it later on.
Right.
What is he doing? Like, you know, I know he's older now. Yeah. Is he doing like the West Coast this year and then, a summer over on the East Coast over here next year or what?
I tell you, you talk about a fun show, though. I mean,
it's got to be great.
You got all the ghosts and goblins. You got the beheading and the running around holding his head. And the music was great. The music was great. Ryan Roxy on the guitar, who I know, you know, friend of a relative of mine. And he actually came up and played when my daughter opened a clothing store. He brought his own band up. One of Alice's guitar players. That guy is so fluid. He just gets better every time I see him. and he was playing at a bunch of our local venues for a while. I had a family member that was booking him, and anyway, he's really, the whole band is really talented, and Alice has still got it. I mean, I don't know if is that really his voice right now, or is it pre-recorded, or what? I don't know. But
I hope not.
Yeah,
I hope not.
But
I think it's him. I think it's him.
I think it is too.
Yeah, he's got a great voice, first of all. But I mean, he sings like he talks. You know, I've talked about these kind of vocalists.
Yeah.
And the strength of people who sing like they talk is they don't put a lot of stress on their vocals. And as they get older, they can usually, unless something has happened that they've lost range and things like that, they can usually keep doing it. You know, it's the Robert Plants who, you know, here's how I sound, here's how I sing. And that does damage. And those kind of singers are where you're starting to see. I just can't believe who's getting away with lip syncing, and I can't believe there's actually an audience for it. I call it karaoke rock.
Yeah.
All right. That's what it is. It's karaoke rock. Now the rock stars have shown up in the bar, and they've got the music playing behind them, and they've even got somebody back there putting a tape of them doing it. They're not even singing karaoke. But the backing tracks, if they are singing, that's karaoke rock. If they're lip syncing like Paul Stanley, that's crappy rock.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know what? I don't understand.
Do it now, lip syncing. Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't understand why there is such a willingness to pay the highest prices that you've ever paid to go see an act.
Right.
And we just gotten, is it the video game phenomena? You know, we all know that's not, it looks cool, but it's not really real. That's virtual reality. It's not really real. And so let's go see a rock concert, and it doesn't matter. It's not really real. Are we actually hypnotizing ourselves as an audience into accepting anything?
Well, it's like you brought up the other day, and I'd heard it several times before. Gene Simmons talking about Kiss continuing long after the current lineup is gone. I mean, is that?
Yeah.
I guess they're going to be in the background pulling the strings and making most of the money, or what? I don't know.
Well, that sounds like Gene Simmons. You know, he's never met a buck he couldn't make.
Right.
And you can take that word either way you want to. But it is the truth, you know. That man, you know, if he had never discovered rock and roll, he would have discovered real estate. You just know it, you know. The man, I have a brother like that who can make a buck out of a turnip, and there are just people like that. So I don't begrudge Gene Simmons, and even his mouth, you know, he's always fun to watch, but you know, it's just that I don't know, man. You know, it's like Kiss is setting us all up more than any other band. There's a couple out there, Motley Fool being one too, but you know, they're setting us up to accept the droll, as far as I'm concerned. You know, oh yes, it's not real. It's Memorex. We came to see Memorex.
Right.
You know, give us our, I want my Memorex. I mean, that's what it's getting down to, you know?
Yeah, that's right. I know.
You know?
That's right.
But what do you do? What do you do? Look at all these shows. I'm not going to say anything about America's Got a whatever, but look at all these shows that we have been brainwashed into accepting as talent. I mean, and we have even become a mean audience, thanks to Simon. We've become mean. We even kind of like to watch a wreck, don't we? We want to see those first scenes of the singers who didn't make it, and then the big singers who get up on stage. Half, you know, they've got the live musicians there, but half of the music on those shows is taped. You know, so what do you, this is what we have. Oh God, you know what?
Terrible.
It's like Survivor started all this shit, right? You know, the TV show Survivor.
Yeah.
You know, that's about as real as a $5 bill on Mars, man. That is that. There's nothing real about that show, and everybody's sitting around. Oh, I loved it the first season. I bought into it hook, line, and sinker until I started recognizing dialogue. Dialogue. They write dialogue for those fools.
How about the other one? What was it called? Naked and Afraid or something like that, where they were all.
Oh, I could never go beyond Survivor. Once I graduated Survivor, that was it. I was done with that nonsense, you know. But you know what? We've always had these bullshit shows. But the further back these shows go, the more integrity they had. What was before Morons on March? Oh, well, that was Star Search. Now, Star Search made me gag, but not as much as these shows today. And before Star Search, what was it with one of the Bee Gees and Marilyn McCoo? And they do their countdown, and then they do their singing and that kind of show. And then before that, it was the Ted Mack Amateur Hour. My mother actually won a spot on the Ted Mack Amateur Hour.
Right.
But I had a daddy who was mean, and he made sure she physically couldn't show up. But that show used to at least be real people singing, you know, but we've always had these shows, and they go in and out. But this time it seems like we've gotten a steady 20-year diet of crap.
Of crap. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got satellite TV. I can't find anything to watch anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I don't have TV. Anything, if I can't find it on the internet, I'm not interested anymore.
Right.
The last TV show I ever followed was Lost, but I can count on my hand and have a couple of fingers left over of really, truly great TV shows. One would be Lost. And I like the ending. So
I did
But-
binge watching on that to get caught up.
But another was The Prisoner, Patrick McGowan. It was a 1-season show. And it's all about a secret agent, and it was hinted at in the show that he was actually Drake, the agent he played in the movie in the TV show Secret Agent Man. Yeah. And it was all about him being taken off to this island. It was the most surrealistic. It made Lost look tame. You know, there's like just a couple of TV shows that have really grabbed me. That and Gilligan's Island. You learn everything you need to know as a human being by watching Gilligan's Island. You know, that's a genius show. It is a show about a microcosm of humanity. The 7 castaways represent the 7 deadly sins, the 7 hopes, the 7 types of people, the 7 archetypes. Wholly young, Carl Jung, man.
Right.
You know, but true genius TV. I'm sorry.
No,
I shouldn't have used that term.
You know, I cannot find anything to watch anymore. It's terrible.
No, you can't.
I woke up really early this morning and went out and made some coffee, took a TV tray and set it next to my bed. And I was laying in there watching Apocalypse Now, on Netflix.
Yeah. Well, that's where I watch most of any entertainment is I've got a couple of apps, and with the channel, I've got a couple of more apps than I should have, and I would have. I could get rid of 4 right now and never go back to them, but they've got access to things that I like to see. Like I'd give up Disney in a heartbeat. But they occasionally have some things, especially with their connection with the Beatles. I want to be able to access that, and it becomes almost a library for me on the channel, right? But
let me ask you.
I'd give up Netflix. I've given up Netflix so many times, it's ridiculous. Right. And I go back whenever, like when they did the the Creedence Clearwater revival thing that they had here a few months ago. Went back, and I just haven't cut them off yet again. So
right.
you know, but TV is dead.
They've got a bunch of music videos too, or documentaries that
Yep.
for putting shows together and stuff can really come in handy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You
Well,
know?
it's good to have, you know, access to the information there and everything, but I don't utilize a lot of those for my own personal entertainment. You know, I've got thousands of movies and that I've bought over the years, and you know, I know what I like, and I still look for new good stuff. Good luck. But no, you can't find a decent movie. You know, there's no matter of fact, they were talking about the Golden Globes.
Okay.
Royce, just slightly over 6 million viewers. Okay, just slightly over 6 million viewers. Now think about that. The last time they were up to bat, it was 18 million, and that was on decline. Okay, people are getting tired of it. I think people are starting to wake up. Oh, ayahuasca, how you doing? You know.
No, I agree.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy.
We rarely go to the movies anymore. I mean, I've taken my grandkids, and you wind up with 3D D-box where you're going moving all around and stuff. Like $40 for two people to go see that, you know. But but we watched the Avatar not too long ago, and I enjoyed that. The new movie Avatar.
I haven't seen it. I love the first one.
Yeah.
I'm like you. I just don't run out to go see movies anymore.
I'm just not motivated to go see them.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people got used to not having to go out and see a movie, you know, especially when a lot of the apps would do first time preview. I mean, you'd be seeing it in your home, in bed, quicker than you could have gone to see it in the theater.
That's
and
exactly
people
right. They really
like that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Have you ever read any of Isaac Asimov's robotic series, the Foundation series? I
read something of his years ago, but no, that doesn't sound.
Yeah. Well, it's broken up into like the iRobot novel, which is a bunch of short stories, and then you have a couple of Daniel, what was his name? Danielle Steele, a robot assistant to a kind of Sherlock Holmes future detective, Elijah. And then you got into further on into the future. But on one of their adventures, they go to this planet called Solaria. Now, Solaria, far in the future, Earth is, you know, people are leaving Earth by the droves. And this culture is made up of people living in their own homes, one person at a time. When they do communicate, they communicate on the screen. They have everything delivered. He wrote this back in the 50s. Does this sound freaking familiar? Does it sound familiar?
No.
Hasn't that been where we've been as a society for the last 2 years? Everything's coming in. More people are ordering on the internet. Food is being delivered. Movies are coming in.
Yeah.
We're not going out to anybody's house. Oh, they've got the dreaded sea. You know, nobody, you know.
That's really true. I don't remember the last time I went over to somebody's house, to be honest with you. What was Isaac Asimov's years and years ago? He had some real famous book that he had out that everybody kind of.
Well, his biggest book was actually a series. It's the Foundation series. And it's basically based on a guy who developed a science that could tell what's going to happen in the future. He foresees the falling of the empire, the galactic empire. And it means 30,000 years of barbarism. I'm not thinking of the word right now, that the galaxy will experience, but he's got a plan. He can do it in 1,000 years and reinvent society within 1,000 years. And this whole series, there's 3 main books. Then he did a couple of post books after that, which are my 2 favorites. And then he did some prequels on the character that started this, but it is a story that I think they only got up to year 500, 600, 700. They don't get through because he died. They don't get through the full 1,000 years it takes to reestablish. He wrote the series. It was released in magazines by chapters, right? To begin with, later got a book deal, slapped them together as a 3-book, and it's considered one of the 3 greatest trilogies in literature by science fiction or fantasy. And of course, Lord of the Rings is another one that people often, and I agree wholeheartedly, as a fantastic work of art.
Yeah, totally.
So that's kind of what he was known for. And you know what? Any writer who can write something in any art form that can change my life, change my brain, change the chemicals in my brain to redirect my thoughts and to question myself, that's art. That's what I love. That's why I love rock and roll. But it's not just rock and roll. I love great movies. I love great literature, you know. I love, but I'm just a meat and potatoes guy. It's not like I'm connected to every writer in the universe. No, I got a couple of my favorite writers, but at least they have something to say. And I think, you know, if you haven't read those books, people, it's all based on the Roman.
I haven't. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all based on Roman history. They do it's the Roman Empire put out galactic wide. He used the Roman Empire, the history of the Roman Empire, to put this whole story together. No, imagine that.
No.
Yeah. Sounds like a rock opera, doesn't it? Sounds like a rock opera. You know.
Sounds like a rock opera, right?
And by the way, Apple has the Foundation series, and they've really played with. It's not even close to what the book was about, but they're actually doing some interesting things with it. I liked the first season. We'll see. There's the, as usual, well, this guy's now got to be a girl, and that guy's now got to be a black woman, and that guy, you know, and it's like, okay, there's a lot of PC-ness to the whole series, but it's not bad. It's not bad. The writing's strong, despite all of that, you know, despite its PC-ness, and they've taken it a whole, it's like, and they make it clear, this is based on his original story. And I think season 2 is due out sometime late this year, from what I understood. Maybe somebody in the peanut gallery could tell you.
Yeah, I don't know. It's dwindling. It's dwindling.
Is it?
Yeah.
See, I don't have the comments up in front of me, so
I know that's the trouble when you go on someone else's show and you're you know, a guest on the show, not a host on the show. You don't get to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I could switch to it, but then I can't see you. You know, so I tend to stay connected to you. You'll bring it up on screen if I need to see it.
Right. Yeah, it was the same the other day when I was on Rachel's show. I couldn't see any of the comments. You know,
right?
I mean, no. I could see them, but I couldn't respond or say anything. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I can hit chat and I'll see it, but then I don't see. I see a foggy version of you with the chat kind of translucently put in front of me, which is very uncomfortable to do. So I figure you're the host, and if I need something drawn to my attention, you're going to put it up there, and I'm going to read it on the screen anyway. So
that's what I've been doing tonight. Yeah. And you know, I want everybody to know I totally agree. And we talked about this earlier, or at least in comments, about John Fogerty getting his work.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Yes.
It's really exciting because I know that he was embroiled in a bunch of stuff for a long time, and you know, I mean, I don't know who thought he wasn't entitled, but obviously the other band members did. But
well, it was their manager. I forget his name. His name is He Who We Do Not Speak Of. But you know, that man used the other two, and you know, they do Fogerty an apology. Those two do. the band had ceased becoming a band, and it was a management situation. They tried to sue him for what was the song, Old Man Down the Road, because it sounded too much like Creedence.
I know that story.
What is he supposed to sound like?
Supposed to change.
What did you think he was going to write?
Right.
And they tried. I know they tried to do him in. And guess what? On top of, not only does he now own his publishing rights, but he owns them worldwide. And he bought the publishing company and purchased the controlling interest. He, once bitten ain't going to be twice shy, no more. For John Fogerty, a personal hero of mine, a man who stands and will pass his art on to his family. Sorry, Bob Dylan, but that's the way it should have been done, Should
have been done, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Fogerty's book is heartbreaking to read.
It sure is.
Yeah, see, I haven't read that. I need to read that book.
Yeah.
Was his own brother part of the opposition, or?
Not really. He had already left.
Gotcha.
See, the whole band had gotten kind of tired, and there is some truth to the fact that John Fogerty got quite bossy. All right. He's writing all the material. He's got the sound. He even talked about that in interviews. I had a sound. I had this place in my head that I would write about. He had it. And originally, it was his brother, who was older than John, was older than John, who was the main lead singer for the band. All right. And so I understand Tom getting his feelings hurt. That must have been tough to see little brother get so much attention and the additional monies that you get being a songwriter. But when he left, then the other two said, right, now we're all going to record an album and we're each going to get to write a song because we all want a piece of the pie. It's their worst album. Mardi Gras, it's their worst album. I love what Sweet Hitchhiker was on that, but that was written by, John. So the two of them thought they were songwriters. You can't wish your way into being a songwriter. You either are a songwriter or you're not. And every musician finds that out pretty quickly. I think anybody who picks up a guitar says, can I write a song? And, some of us picked up a song and picked it up the guitar and I wrote a song. And if you heard my first song, you'd run for the hills. All right. It was horrible. All based on E and A. E and A, E and A. All right. But it turned me on so much that after years and years and years and years, I got better at it. Right. You don't give up. That's how you learn to write songs. You don't decide, let's make an album. I'll start writing songs because it sounds like that. That album sounds exactly like that. And then them touring with the name and latching on and all of that going on. Evidently, it was Irving Azoff. I forget how you pronounce his last name. He's the manager for the Eagles. Evidently had something to do with this deal, I read. Okay. So he helped John do that. Irving is one of those managers that I can say in his prime, he was one of the best managers. He worked for his people and blah, blah, blah. But what he did to the Eagles when Don and Glenn became egomaniacs, he took their side. And for the first time, he became a manager of artists. He was an A&R man from that point on. But evidently, he did help John out, get his publishing back. So maybe there's something to still say about Irving. Good job, I guess.
Right. Well, this has been great. I'm going to have to head out, and thank you, Michael. I didn't expect you to come on.
Well, thanks for having me on, Royce.
Really glad you did.
I always enjoy just talking with you.
Oh, I know exactly.
It seems like the last half hour of these streams is, whoever's still on, we just start chatting and we go, oh, wait a minute, maybe we should turn this off. It is running rather long. But I enjoy it, Royce. Thanks for having me on.
I have too. Thank you. Thanks
and guys, really seriously, Bruce's channel could use some attention. There, and the guy has a lot to say, and I'm glad you brought him up today. In today's stream, because if you guys haven't seen him, he really does have a lot to say, and he's a lot more eloquent in saying it than I ever am.
Okay, sounds good. Well, let's all go to the R&B show, guys. We gotta go check it out. I'm going. I'm on my way.
He's got a brand new video out.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Does he come on every week, or I know a lot of people are coming on multiple times now. It's just like some.
Yeah.
Well, Rachel's on every day, but
right. No, he doesn't do it like any set time. I think part of it is he's still a working man. His partner, I think, is still a working man. All right. So they're trying to do their channel around like making a living, whereas me, I'm retired, baby. Yeah. And so I work
I'm still
on my channel.
I'm still a working man too, at least probably for another year or two, maybe a year. We'll see what happens. But Michael, let me get your opinion on one thing. Okay. I go to a lot of channels that have the entire channel is just playing albums, album after album. Now I can go out to some little venue around here, and I'll make a little video of the Pozo Saloon where there's a little band playing out back or something. And they're doing a Grateful Dead song. A friend of the devil is a friend of mine, And every song that I recorded for my little video about the Pozo Saloon, I get a copyright, not strike, but claim.
Yeah.
And I don't know, how do these guys get away with playing just album after album after album?
Well, I can tell you one thing happens with you and me is because we edit our videos and we upload those videos. Right. There is, and now they've got a new vetting process. They're really looking into like one of my videos, one of my more successful videos got partially demonetized. Because something I still, I'm not even interested in going to it as to why it was considered not appropriate for all ages. They didn't give me a strike or anything, but from what I understand, it might be that I used a hell or a damn in the first 30 seconds. A general rule, don't cuss in the first 30 seconds. Try to avoid the F-bomb, try to avoid, the atomic structure language, avoid that. And, but during that vetting process, they're listening for music. All right. And that's when you'll get your copyright strikes and whatever. Now, a lot of these channels that are doing it live, some of them I know are rather small. And so they're slipping through the cracks. They don't upload the videos, so it doesn't go through a vetting process.
Yeah, that's a good point, right?
But there are a couple that are large, and you know what? It beats me. I don't know how they get away with it. I got a lot of requests when I first started my channel. It would be nice if you would supply clips, and I would tell everybody. I would love to. Are you kidding me?
Oh yeah,
I would love to.
Yeah.
Oh God, the nature of my channel would change overnight if I could just pick a recording and start going over it. Right. The things I could do with that. But and then it also it hinges on what music. There's a lot of these channels, they're into heavy metal, fusion, jazz. Yeah. And all right, well, there's a lot of those artists aren't connected with companies that are out there on YouTube searching. But the Beatles are, Led Zeppelin is, the big acts, they're searching. Right. They've got entire companies searching YouTube, searching everywhere, because if you play it, you're going to pay for it. At the very least, you're going to have part of your monetization, if you're monetized, taken away from you, or you can get all the way up to a strike, and that's not good.
No.
But I'm trying to avoid strikes. I don't want to get a strike.
No, I don't want to get a strike either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've got that little background music from my brother's band, but they own it. It's not.
Right.
they weren't major recording artists or anything. And
Right.
so,
Well, I told you I covered one video where I covered Quinn Hedges' album, and I covered one of his tracks, and I didn't get a strike, but I got it demonetized immediately.
Okay. Like a
all
claim.
right, because the companies came in, and I mean, this guy is regional. He's not a major, he's not like one of America's biggest stars. He's a regional guy out of the Sacramento, Northern California area.
Right.
And the radars are out there, and they're searching,
Right.
Big brother is looking, brother. And that's just the way it is. And so that's why I don't put out music, and I don't even want to go there. I don't want
to go there either. It's just kind of a bummer when you're at some little tiny venue and there's some local guy with a tip jar out. He's not even getting paid to play, and he's of course he's doing covers, and you make a little show out of it, a little several minute show, and the next thing you know, you got a copyright, not strike but claim,
right.
And
right.
Yeah, it's just kind of annoying.
Yeah. What's this?
That's my brother. He's going to be Rachel's coming on his show tomorrow night.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah, what time is that, Richie?
Yeah, what time is that, Rich? I think it was 7 o'clock last time, but I'm not sure about tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I'll check it out. Do you have a link up for it? Like, for example, when Royce puts out his announcement, I always hit notify me, because half the time I'm watching somebody else, and then all of a sudden Royce is on, and I'll click real quick,
Right. Okay, let's see. 7 p.m. Okay.
7 p.m. Got
7
it.
p.m. Yeah.
I'll try to be there. My wife has been going in and out of the room here as we've been talking.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be allowed, Richie.
Right. No, I hear you.
She's giving me that look. What you up to?
Okay. Well, on that note, guys, we're going to sign off, and I want to thank everybody for joining us. Michael, thank you for coming on. Always
thank you
as a guest. You're a lot of just
Zephyr, Caitlin, good Lord, all of you who said hi back. I did see one of your shows, Caitlin, but I had to leave. I was sent out for groceries, but I just caught it, and you're looking good. You got a good attitude. I'm so sorry you're going through what you're going through.
Good night, Gary. Good night, everybody. We're going to sign off now, and thank you all very much. We really appreciate you being here, as always, and please come back. Okay. Good night, guys.
Good night, Royce.